Can everybody take their seats? We're about to start now. And if possible, if everyone can move to the front seats to, please, if you don't mind. Sweethearts, please, if you can move to the front rows, taking some of the chairs out. The next row, please. Sika. Next row, please, I beg you. Thank you. Yeah, so we're good to go. Thank you all for coming. We're about to start. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. How are you all doing today? Everybody's so quiet.
Morning.
Well, welcome to this evening's program. My name is Ivy Prosper, and I will be your MC and Ghana-based moderator here today. As you know, we have a virtual panel who are based in the US, and that will be moderated by Professor Eleanor Earle. I want to welcome you to the very first in a series of virtual panel discussions that will be happening. This is brought to you under the auspices of Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, and it's coordinated by Ghana Tourism Authority as well as Beyond the Return in collaboration with the Creative Arts Council of Ghana and the Bridge Zone. Today we bring you the Return Conversations. This is a virtual masterclass featuring successful creative industry professionals who are in the diaspora. They're going to be sharing their experiences with us today and tools of success that we can use here in Ghana, also in the creative industry as well. It's all about collaborating with our fellow brothers and sisters in the diaspora. The theme is Black Stories Matter. Forging collaborations for the development of Ghana's creative industry. Never before has it been more important for us to be able to tell our own stories. Black stories, whether it's on the continent of Africa or in North America or in Europe, we must be in control of telling our own stories. Before we get the program underway, I want to acknowledge some people who are here today. First of all, I want to recognize that Ms. Denta Amwateng, MBE, is here. She is the head of Gubra Enterprises. Welcome, Denta. We have Anthony Bart, who is the president of the Bridge Zone, who have collaborated with this program. The president of the Creative Arts Council, Mark. Where are you? I saw him earlier today. I don't see him now. Oh, he's back there. Hello, Mark. We also have some members of the Beyond the Return Steering Committee who are here today, some board members from Ghana Tourism Authority as well. And we have the CEO of Ghana Tourism Authority, Mr. Akwesi Ajaman, who also is the coordinator. He's also the coordinator for Beyond the Return, and he was the coordinator for last year's successful Return program. Mr. Ajaman. We also have the Deputy Minister, Honorable D. Barry, who is here with us today. Welcome. This program is historical, and I hope that you all take in everything that's happening today. Take your notes. If you have questions, jot them down so that as we go through this program, you're able to interact when the Q&A period comes. I want to introduce our first speaker today, the President of the Creative Arts Council, Mark Okreku Mante.
Permitted to take off my mask for a few seconds. Good afternoon. Hello. Microphone, could you please check the battery for me? Anyone here who could check the microphone for me? Okay, we are back. Good to see you all. I'll be very brief. For the sake of looks, let me take it off. I'll be very brief. Our people out there are waiting, so we can't keep them waiting for a very long time, but I still must speak. So I welcome you all to Kempiski for this special masterclass. I call it a monumental one because I've never seen a set of moguls in their own spaces of where they operate in the West, talking to us and sharing ideas with us like this before. And so between now and the next 4 hours, I'm happy you've taken the time out to join us here. After this, I am sure our industry will not remain the same. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mark. And now we are going to watch a video on Ghana Beyond the Return.
To Ghana. Go beyond the return to a home of a rich cultural heritage where nature is incredible. Adventure is everywhere and the people are warm. Go beyond to a home far from home. Visit Ghana. Well,
for those of you who don't know, Beyond the Return is a 10-year initiative, and it is the follow-up to last year's successful Year of Return program that had so many people from the diaspora communities coming to Ghana to see what was here, to learn history, heritage, and culture. One of the amazing things that came from that program is the interest in Ghana beyond just coming and visiting and taking a holiday. People wanted to know more. What can they do? So this Beyond the Return 10-year initiative is a decade of African Renaissance. So right now, I'm going to introduce the coordinator for Beyond the Return and CEO of Ghana Tourism, Mr. Akwesi Agyemang.
Thank you, Ivy. Good evening, distinguished guests, Honorable Deputy Minister, who is a special guest for today's occasion, members of the creative industry here in Ghana, and also from the US of A, members of the Beyond the Return Steering Committee, from GTA, all protocols duly observed. Today's event is quite simple, but is monumental, as Mark indicated. As a follow-up to the Year of Return, the Beyond the Return agenda is back on, but we took feedback from the various stakeholders in the industry on things that they would have expected as we went through the Year of Return. One of them was how our brothers and sisters who visited could have shared experiences with them. And so taking a cue from there, one of the main pillars for the Beyond the Return program is the return conversations that are going to happen every now and then. We know what happened to us with COVID and how our industry has virtually shut down. A couple of weeks ago, our Minister, Honorable Barbara Otin Jesse, supported by the Senior Minister, unveiled the pillars of Beyond the Return to kickstart the event again. And today we have the first return conversations, starting that process of bringing back the return on the agenda. And we've lined up a very strong team in collaboration with the Creative Arts Council and the Bridge Zone. And so we welcome all of you once again to tonight's event. Like Mark indicated, we want it to be interactive. And so we will have our panel via Zoom, and then Ivy Prosper moderating from here. And so when you have any questions, please let's keep it interactive. Through here, we can put it on the platform for them. And so we hope that out of today's conversation, follow-ups will be made. It's also a networking platform for us to get to know each other in film, in music, in arts, in animation, and what have you. So welcome once again and enjoy the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ajman. It is up to you to be part of telling our stories, as I said earlier. And one of the things that was a highlight that showcased creative arts last year was the movie Joseph. I don't know if any of you had the opportunity to see it, but it was evidence of what can happen when collaboration crosses the ocean. We had people in Ghana working with people in Barbados and Jamaica to create film. So this event is definitely on point and exactly what we need right now. So I'm going to introduce our next guest, our Deputy Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Honorable Ziblim Idibari is here and is going to give us some remarks.
Thank you. Good afternoon. And hello to our distinguished panelists from the US. Is it morning or afternoon in the States now? I think afternoon. So good afternoon to our distinguished panelists. It's a great pleasure for me to join you for this first version of the Return Conversations Masterclass series. This Masterclass series will be a pivotal part of the Beyond the Return project, as the CEO of the Ghana Tourism Authority has indicated. And the theme for the first Masterclass series is Black Stories Matter, forging collaborations for the development of Ghana's creative industry. I would first of all like to commend the Ghana Tourism Authority for collaborating with various agencies, civil society organizations, our friends in the diaspora, and corporate bodies to make this event possible. The government of Ghana recognizes and appreciates the efforts made by each and every one of you to make Beyond the Return project a dream come true. The Beyond the Return project is a 10-year project under the theme A Decade of African Renaissance, spanning from 2020 to 2030. Even though the tourism industry and the creative arts sector has been hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic, we are very optimistic that the impact of the Beyond the Return project will be as promising as the Year of Return. The various initiatives under the project will grow Ghana's tourism industry and showcase Ghana's investment potential and solidify its diaspora engagement programs. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, from music to fashion, theater and film, animation, gaming, visual arts, and design, Ghana's creative industry has a lot of potential. And we at the Ministry of Tourism continue to support in any way possible to enhance and maximize the potential. That is precisely why I find the theme selected for this masterclass very appropriate and opportune. This masterclass will be the first in a series of conversations between Ghana and the African diaspora on topics that came up very strongly during last year's successful launch of the Year of Return. I am glad to say that the Year of Return Ghana 2019 sparked global movement for Ghana and Africa. It is my fervent conviction that the Beyond the Return will not only spark a movement, but will spark the economy and grow our development and create prosperity for the good people of Ghana and for our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. On this note, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I wish to take the opportunity once again to thank all stakeholders, organizers, and panelists for making this first conversation possible. I entreat our friends from the creative arts sector here in Gadet to participate actively in the ensuing discussions. Long live Africa, long live the Black race, and may God continue to bless our homeland, Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I love what he said about sparking a global movement. A round of applause again for the Deputy Minister. I want to quickly acknowledge some people that I've noticed are here today. I do apologize if I haven't seen you, but I will mention the people who I've noticed. We have Martha Ankoma, actress, and brand ambassador for GTP is here. Artist Manifest is also here. Actor Majid Michel is here. And the wonderful Paulina Odro is here. Hello, how are you? I've missed you. So we're going to show you one quick video message before I hand it over to our next panel and to the next moderator. So this video is from Diaspora Affairs and Creative Arts key industry players. Do we have the video?
I'm so excited that we're having the return conversations. Conversations that we locally in Ghana can have with our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. To share our stories. Black stories matter. And it matters because we are the ones that need to tell our stories. We're the ones that need to share those stories and work together to make sure that those stories become a reality. So I urge our local people in Ghana and the diaspora to come together and let's work. Let's take advantage of this and build our creative economies. Black stories matter.
We have an opportunity today to learn from our brothers and sisters who have been outside and they've experienced something that has grown to the magnitude we see it today outside the country. And they are here to share it with us. Let us take this opportunity and pay attention to whatever they say. And at the end of this conversation, we know the Creative Arts Council will organize another forum for us where we will own this information and make it a homegrown. And then the recovery will start from there. I wish you all the best and enjoy yourself.
We as the Black community feel that we need to tell our own story and also to engage with this conversation and to see how we can use our diaspora community, both here and outside of Ghana, to be able to collaborate to bring something successful out of our own stories. And I look forward to the conversations that we are going to have today.
So in 2019, we had something phenomenal happening in Ghana. We had the year of return. We had so many people from the diaspora coming back home to reconnect. We had lots of networking, lots of link up, great and amazing stuff. And I'm so glad that it didn't end there. It went beyond their return. In 2020, we're having beyond their return. And I'm so glad we're having conversations like this because we get to focus on music, on film, on fashion and art and gaming and animation. It's very important. The theme for this year as well has been Black Stories Matter. Yes, Black stories do matter. And as a music maker, I'm so glad we're having the return conversations. And shout outs to everybody that came together to make this happen, all the stakeholders, everybody involved in making this thing a success. I'm glad. And I hope this does continue actually. It's your boy, Kitty. Peace and love.
And now, without further ado, I would like to hand it over to Professor Eleanor Earle, who is the moderator of the panel that is virtual, featuring industry players in the US who are going to have some fantastic things to contribute to the conversation. Professor Eleanor Earle is a film and TV producer. She's a director, entrepreneur, and she's the director of film studies at Hampton University. She's going to be moderating this panel for the next, I believe it's an hour, and we will have a Q&A session. And as I mentioned, I want you all to think about some of the questions you may have, some of the things you want to contribute, so that when that time comes, we can pass those questions on to the panel. Jot them down as you think of it. Let's welcome Professor Eleanor Earle.
Hello, Ghana. It's such a pleasure to join you today and have the honor of moderating this portion of the Beyond the Return Masterclass, Black Stories Matter. First, I would like to thank all of the distinguished invited guests who filled the beautiful auditorium there in Ghana. And I'd like to thank those who have joined us online from around the world. We're looking forward to hearing from all of you later in the program. I have the pleasure of sharing this virtual stage with some of the most highly acclaimed entertainment industry professionals in the United States. And joining us today are Lamont Rucker, Hollywood film and television actor, writer and producer, Asante Bradford, project manager for digital media and entertainment for the state of Georgia, Shelby Stone, Emmy, Golden Globe, and NAACP award-winning producer and president of production for Narrative Film Group, formerly known as Freedom Road Productions. RJ Bukaria, co-founder and CEO of Prolific Media Holdings and investor. E2 Evans, entrepreneur, celebrity shoe, clothing and accessory designer. Chris Rowland, writer, producer, director for film and television. Philanese West, celebrity hairstylist for the hit TV show Watchmen, starring Regina King. Baron Davis, former NBA player, CEO of Baron Davis Enterprises and investor, and Vasal Benford, founder and chairman of the Benford Company, music mogul and entrepreneur. Let's give them a round of applause. Great. So today, I'd like to share the following with you. The Bridge Zone CEO, Prince Anthony Bart Appiah, the Ghana Tourism Authority, and the Creative Arts Council have summoned us here today to address a timely question regarding the significance of storytelling and collaboration within the African diaspora. and more specifically between Ghanaians and African Americans who share a desire to create original content for global distribution and consumption that will continue to remind the world that we are powerfully diverse, resourceful, and exceptionally gifted people whose stories have always mattered and will continue to do so. To start our discussion today, our panelists are going to answer the following questions. Why do Black stories matter? In the future here in Ghana, what possibilities for collaboration, if any, exist for yourself and or the organization and industry you represent? How will these potential collaborations be beneficial to Ghanaians and African Americans and other members of the African diaspora as the creative industry in Ghana continues to scale? So first, we're going to have our first response to that question from Mr. Lamont Rucker, and I'm going to offer a brief bio before he shares his response to that question, a series of questions. Lamont Rucker is an actor, educator, activist, and entrepreneur whose career platform has been used to influence, educate, and ignite communities through artistic and academic innovation. Best known as Jacob Greenleaf on OWN's hit drama series Greenleaf, the handsome Sheriff Troy and Tyler Perry's Why Did I Get Married film sequel, and Will on hit film sitcom Meet the Browns. Rucker is maintaining a powerful small and large screen presence in films such as BET's The Man in 3B and Black Coffee, where he has also done other films such as Terror Lake, Drive, Albert and Paul, Cooking Up Christmas, and This Loves Wins. Beyond film, his award-winning acting ranges and has spanned off into Broadway theater, as well as television, such as Black Angels of the Tuskegee, Half and Half, and many other wonderful projects. Let's welcome him as he offers his response to the series of questions.
Hello, everybody. Again, good morning, good day, good evening, depending on your time zone. I guess I'd love to begin by obviously just acknowledging formally my fellow U.S. panelists and experts. You know, always good to see my local brethren and sistren joining hands to lift each other up and to align ourselves with our colleagues throughout the diaspora around the globe. Thank you to Bridge Zone, Honorable Prince Appia, the Creative Arts Council, the Ghana Tourism Authority, and Beyond the Return Initiative, and of course, our beloved Professor Earl from the one and only Hampton University, who has been the catalyst for this entire conversation and bridging this gap. So thank you. It's my honor to be with you all today. And that honor stems from what's obvious, which is being a proud, beautiful Black man. Anything that is about shining on our people, our culture, and how our people and our culture are connected to everybody else's people and culture. And I think that's part of the relevance in acknowledging why Black stories matter. I also believe our voices are powerful. I believe we as I'll just start saying African people, because wherever we are, that's still what we are. We're remarkable, we're beautiful, we're brilliant, we're smart. There's so much information that also is still yet to be shared and yet to be really taken across the globe. So there's so much information that people are hungry for, so much information that's been lost, that's been destroyed, that's been suppressed. And I think our stories matter because we've got a lot of history to make up for, in a sense. There's so much information, so many rich traditions and stories that are yet to be told, that our stories have always mattered. And now that we've got more of an opportunity to do so much more of this together, I think this is the kind of opportunity we need to be taking absolute full advantage of, and to do it in a way that's honorable, that has integrity, that's truthful, that's transparent, that is where we tell the whole story. I think I can definitely speak to, in particular as a Black man in America, one of the most frustrating things and frustrating is a very mild word, is that however much certain images and certain degrees of certain information might be true, what's in particular been incredibly damaging is the fact that we've got so many vile and horrific stereotypes that maybe give 1% of who we actually are as men of color and as communities of color, and again as African people. So I made it my charge a long time ago, thank God. Being actually even a young man of Ghanaian descent myself, but also having the childhood that I had, we were raised with a very strong African-centered framework in cultural pride and education, and I've been long and well aware that the stories um, that we often have dictated to us are nothing close to the stories that really actually make up who we are, where we're from, and how wonderful we are. So I started an organization years ago with some other artists, brothers in Los Angeles called the Black Gents. And this is what we made our primary charge, using the arts and culture and inspiring the creative spirit in all people, but in particular young people in our communities, to really find their voice and speak to their power and be igniters of positive social change and change in their own lives and their communities through embracing the God-given gift of being a creative person. So very proud of the work that we've been able to do for the last 10 years, and this is the kind of alignment and partnership that just really speaks to how important this work is, and it's very encouraging to see so many other people across the globe doing the same thing in their own respective way, using their own voice in the particular gifts that they have. So I think it's incredibly important that we are the stakeholders, owners, curators of our own heritage, our culture, our genius, our wealth. And I think Black stories matter because they've always mattered, but in particular, the more we have a say in our own story, I think those stories are always much richer, much more truthful, and much more profound. So, thank you to all the storytellers that are out there, for those who are telling the stories and those who have yet to tell their story. You mentioned collaborations. I think the collaborations that are possible are endless. I'm even looking at all the people that I can see just on my screen here in the US. I'm interested in learning so much more than what I already know about my fellow panelists. And I mean, I think what really makes this, our lives in particular as artists powerful is the fact that creativity is happening all the time. I mean, I can't wait to hear everybody else's bio so I can get even a little bit more detail on what everybody else has their hands into as they speak, because I know just consistent dings and pings are going to go off about, ooh, I got an idea. Ooh, that gives me another idea. Ooh, I want to learn more about that. So I think the more information we have about each other, about one another's gifts and talents and passions and senses of purpose, the opportunity for collaboration here and abroad is absolutely immeasurable. So I've done this type of work across oceans before, even as an artist and educator, training other artists and educators. I think the cultural education, the opportunity for business development, again, create the content creation and storytelling. Um, young lady earlier spoke about and acknowledged some of the other local and regional artists that were there present in Ghana. I mean, why aren't we doing movies together? Why aren't we in one another's television series? And why aren't they traveling here to the U.S. to work and study and train and educate us, and vice versa? There's just countless opportunity to combine our genius and our talents and our love for ourselves and for one another. And I'm really encouraged that more and more of this is continuing to happen. I'm actually working on one of my scripts that I'm working on and developing now. Actually, part of the story, does go and take place, is set to take place in Ghana for a portion of it. So this conversation was so incredibly timely because we literally finished our first draft of the script maybe last week. So really interested in how that story start and be initiated here, and then literally it, you know, transports itself to the motherland as well. So I think we've got you know, yeah, some incredible future together. So thanks for allowing me to be with you. Again, long live Africa. God bless Ghana, and God bless all of you.
Thank you so very much. That was wonderful. Thank you. Looking forward to definitely making those connections for collaboration through the Bridge Zone, and Prince Anthony Apia is looking forward to assisting you with your desire to do that. Next, we have Asante Bradford. He is the project manager for digital entertainment and emerging media for the Georgia Department of Economic Development, the sales and marketing arm for the state of Georgia. Asante.
Hello, and thank you. I'd like to follow up and also thank the Ghana Tourism Authority, the Bridge Zone, and the Creative Arts Council as well for inviting me to this incredible opportunity. And then, just like you, Mr. Rucker, I have to say a shout out to Professor Earl, who's just an amazing person in putting this together. We've actually had these discussions, and to actually see this come to fruition is just like, there's nothing like it. It's almost like, Mr. Rucker, you're talking about creating stories, and when something can actually come from your mind to actually being on paper, to actually happening and being filmed or whatever, it's just always an amazing process to me to see something come from here. And I also think that's always been one of our gifts. So to talk about creating stories, and as Mr. Rucker said, it's literally, it's all storytelling. So I'm blessed in that I have a unique role here in the United States, in that I am one of the only people for any state to be dedicated to growing the digital entertainment industry for the state of Georgia, here where I work. I've been at it now 15 years, and it's just amazing to see the kind of growth that can happen, but also to see kind of the blueprint and creating what we have created. Because literally when we started, it was crickets in the office, but to see how we actually had built a plan from economic development to now we have over 100 video game companies here in the state. We have over 100 animation companies here in the state, where when I started, there wasn't even 3 game companies. What's also been great in that is, again, it all correlates, these guys all work together. So for the state of Georgia, the creative industries is a huge push for us because they all play together. So we've also, you know, again, had a reputation for being a music hub back in the day. And we still are. We're still one of the top actually, if you know hip hop, we are the hip hop. We don't really have a lot of the bigger names, or we have not when we started. And then what happens is when they start seeing on the growth, when the folks start coming to town. So we've been blessed, obviously, having Marvel, having Disney, and some of the bigger companies, obviously Netflix, Apple, they all shoot movies here. But as well as that growth is, we've also, again, seen the organic growth here. So I know Mr. Rocker literally come from, you know, there's somebody to take where people saw the opportunities that can happen here. And then from that, it's been like an onrush. So I'm specifically here to talk about what I do. And I, again, focus more on gaming and animation. And what's so exciting about the opportunity to talk to all of you is that opportunity, and it's just so wide open right now. When you talk about, there are so many stories that haven't touched video game or animation yet. Again, in my role, I get a chance to talk with a lot of different companies who I know specifically are looking for African American video game companies, African American animation companies right now to invest in. So when I think about the opportunities here and the cross collaboration that excites me, and that we can actually determine and work together to actually create some of the IP and then the technical things. So as Mr. Rucker said, literally, we need to be working together. We need to figure out how we can, you know, develop young talent. You know, again, one of the things that we have here, we're now one of the top 5 state or bigger companies. When they know that there's a lot of young talent coming out of there, it's almost like they can't afford to miss out on that. Has always been, and Eleanor, how can we create more of these type of these partnership opportunities globally? Again, in my role, I've been blessed, and I have worked with other countries, you know, who have seen what we get done as well, and literally come here mostly to shoot. But again, blessed to be part of, and a big part of that is on the economic development side has been, you know, tax credits. You know, tax credits also lead to opportunities for investors. So one of the things we're seeing now in Atlanta, and one of the issues that we have had as African Americans is investing in each other, investing in especially creative capital, the creative economy, because a lot of this is really happening now, especially here in Atlanta. So where we are now is I'm having those conversations. I call it now where we reached the point where people are seeing all of the stuff that's happening here. So they're asking, well, what's the return on investment on a movie, a TV show, a video game, an animation? And what's crazy about that is when I tell them about video gaming, literally the ROI on a video game, again, let's say one of the top movies, Black Panther, I think did $1 billion, something like that, right? Well, video game, make that money back in 2 or 3 days. You know, a top video game makes that money back quickly. So a lot of people don't even know that the movie industry, the music industry combined can't.
That's great, and that's a great point, Asante, on which to pause for a moment, because it's so exciting. The ROI potential, as you said, is astounding. And we want to get back to talking with you about that a little later in the program today. And next, for sure, thank you. Next, we have Shelby Stone. She is an Emmy, Golden Globe, and NAACP award-winning film and television producer. She's also president of production for Narrative Film Group, formerly known as Freedom Road Productions. Ms. Stone has produced over 80 hours of television, including the critically acclaimed Support, Single Ladies, and many more. Yet, believe it or not, she thinks her greatest achievement in Hollywood is surviving.
Thank you, Eleanor. I very much appreciate it. I really wanted to just take a second and thank the Bridge Zone and your vision for creating, this hands across the water communication. Prince Anthony Appiah, the Gunnism Tourist Authority, and really Professor Eleanor Earle, who has quite a vision. I was raised with a photo of a man in our family who had been born a slave in Virginia in 1839 and had born out the store. And my own family's deep interest in, because my mother is Creole. I don't happen to have a picture of her family, but from that far back. But the truth is, our blood, our sweat, and our tears built all of the great wealth in Europe and America, because the English, all of the colonizing countries, including America, made made their fortunes off of our work. And we've all been a part of those societies, even if that has not been the story that has been told. And our stories matter internationally because these are stories about people. And just because people look different than the majority culture of any particular country doesn't mean that their stories aren't relatable. Everybody bleeds, everybody dies, everybody wants, love and family, and these are universal values. So to be told that because they happen to be told by people who don't look like whatever the majority culture thinks is erroneous, right? Because these are all universal values that we all share. I've been very, my whole career, I have worked with uh, uh, Black companies, worked telling Black stories, and we've been very lucky. I've had a very lucky career and somehow continue to still do it. The Shy just finished its season 3 airing on Showtime, and now we're busy on season 4. The writer's room is open. Thank you, Lamont. I appreciate that. Um, we at the company that I work with, my partner is also African American, and we look for stories that are outside of the traditional stories. So we haven't done, although we found a way to find our own twists on it, but we try to tell different aspects of our lives in America because it's not a monolithic experience, despite what has generally been shown, which is, criminals. Not everybody is a rapper or a sports star. We do come in a lot of different kinds of packages. So I was telling Eleanor before this that we have the rights to Zora Neale Hurston's book Barracoon, which will allow for Ghanaian and American collaboration when it comes time to shoot that. That's going to be an epic event mini-series. We have a really great vision for, and it's a great story because he was the last surviving member of his tribe, and he was taken into slavery in his teens. So the book has a very, very detailed explanation of his tribe, its customs. It's like Black Panther, right? A slice of that world, but it's real. And we're very excited about that. We've also got a lot of other projects that we're doing that tell different aspects of our stories in America. And so, to me, this is what this panel is, what the return mission is, and the bridge zone. This is part of how we expand our footprint in the world and stand up and say, our stories are actually your stories. And not only that, but our stories matter as much as your stories. And that's really what I think is important, that part of the end result of this particular effort is very important for elaborating on. Have I forgotten any of the questions, Eleanor? Perhaps I have.
No, you actually hit everything quite nicely and succinctly. So that was wonderful. And it's wonderful to hear about Barracoon. Like, that's so exciting for this amazing miniseries to also be able to be shot partially in Ghana. That was just so incredibly serendipitous when we first talked about it. So thank you for sharing that amazing news. And again, the Bridge Zone will be very happy to help facilitate that for you all. So thank you.
That'd be great.
Thank you. Thank you. So next up, we have RJ Bukaria. He is co-founder and CEO of Prolific Media Holdings, and he says that creativity in the arts has always been a central part of his life. By the time he was 17, he had already recorded 3 full-length albums, performed off-Broadway, produced 3 benefit concerts, written, directed, scored 2 original plays, was the chief lighting designer for over 20 stage productions, and added over 15 instruments to his performance repertoire. Amazing, right? Through his 20 plus year journey in the business of the entertainment industry, he has held positions as A&R, talent management, music supervision, producer, director, C-level executive, and as a member of the board of directors for public, private, and nonprofit organizations. He has had the great pleasure of working with a large number of companies and talent from both the A-list and those who have yet to make it on any list. He has a very deep passion for every aspect of what he does and always looks forward to the challenge of tomorrow. RJ Hard.
Well, good morning and good evening and
On any list. He has a very deep passion for every aspect of what he does and always looks forward to the challenge of tomorrow. RJ Hard.
well, good morning and good evening and
On any list. He has a very deep passion for every aspect of what he does and always looks forward to the challenge of tomorrow. RJ Hard.
well, good morning and good evening and in a rough moment needs to find a way to be sensitive in a very difficult moment. And in our world, it's always about finding compelling stories. And I think the Black community worldwide has got compelling stories to share that will inspire people regardless of their backgrounds, regardless of where they're from, regardless of their current circumstances. And I think one of the biggest factors for everybody involved is the opportunity to do that. There's never ever been a question anywhere about the talent to be able to tell those stories. It's always been about the ability and the opportunity to tell those stories. And a great illustration of it is, Lamont, when he first started out his conversation today, it was one of the first things that he said. I want to hear what all of my other panelists are doing because I want to know how I can work together with them. And it's the same thing for us, whether you're talking about us on the operating side or the investment side. We invest globally in everything, in film and television and music and facilities and venues. We have investments in Australia, in the United Kingdom, here in the United States, in Canada. And one of the biggest things for me, and one of the reasons that I'm thrilled to be a participant in a situation like this, is because for me, it's always about having friends and having relationships that give me access to those opportunities. And that's what I view this as about, is being able to begin those relationships between us, between Ghana, to say, look, what's going on? Show me where the talent is. Show me what's exciting. Show me what's going on. Show me where the opportunity is. And let me be a vessel for you coming back the other direction. Because it goes both ways. Everybody always tends to focus on, how does it help Ghana and everything else? We need the help too. I need the help to be able to have the inroads into the marketplace there, to be able to identify these opportunities and benefit for everybody across the board. Because that's always what the end result is, whether you're talking about Ghana, whether you're talking about any other, South Africa, whether you're talking about Australia. When you work collaboratively together in success, it automatically creates benefits on both sides of that equation, period. Whether you're talking about monetarily, whether you're talking about opportunities for career pathways, there may be somebody sitting in the audience right now that is probably one of the most amazing sound designers in the entire world. And maybe they get their opportunity to be noticed or to begin a conversation and to establish a relationship that 4 years from now leads to them being the lead engineer at Lucasfilm. That's what this is all about. It's about creating those bridgeways, creating those opportunities for all sides of the conversation. So I think that's everything, right, Eleanor?
100%. That was wonderful. I love that we're talking about, and you were just speaking of basically the power of collaboration and how it is definitely mutually beneficial to all parties who are involved. And that's awesome. So once again, The Bridge Zone looks forward to helping to facilitate whatever your interests are also in Ghana. It's super exciting. Wonderful. Next up, we have E2 Evans. He's referred to as the Prince of Lux. He's made a name for himself as a tastemaker to celebrities, you guys. And he's built his company, E2 Evans LLC, into an international footwear, accessory, and interior design company that creates luxury items and one-of-a-kind footwear for the rich and famous. E2 Evans. I'm gonna unmute you. Okay, there we are. You should be unmuted. Are you unmuted?
Unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Eleanor, for the fantastic introduction. You're amazing. I'd like to also thank Prince Anthony Bart, Abia, the Ghana Tourism, as well as, am I missing someone? The Bridge Zone. There we go. Black stories matter because I believe our words are like threads, and that our culture and our stories, they actually represent the hymn of who we are. But so oftentimes we don't get to let our hymn out because our stories have been suppressed historically. So the difference between telling your story and having someone to hide your story can be quite empowering when you find out who you are. And being a designer in the luxury arena, I was often told that I could not design luxury products, that people wouldn't buy them for someone who looked like me. But I read the story of Jan Matzigler, who created the shoe lasting machine, and it changed my whole trajectory. It changed my life. And that's the power of learning who you are through your story. Secondly, if you don't learn your story, you're going to be subjected to his story. And that can be filled with lies and derail you from your promise and your destiny. I believe Black stories matter because our stories contain medicine that heal us and that will nourish our souls. I also believe that it's significant that we learn about Black stories because they tell our metamorphosis from our caterpillar struggle into our butterfly experience. For instance, if we stop Malcolm's story when he was at the age of 20, we would have only been stuck with Detroit Red, a thief, a woman beater. If we stop Maya Angelou's story at the age of 20, we would have only learned of her as a prostitute and a single mom. But the beauty of learning about Black stories is that we learned about the actual sculpting process from where we started to where we're going. So Black stories matter. In terms of collaboration, I mean, when I think of Africa, I think of the stitch of civilization. I see tremendous opportunities to collaborate and design, whether it's in footwear, fashion design, or interiors, because the beauty of design is in storytelling. It comes from a point of view. It is cloaked in fabric. And the beauty for me in designing a pair of shoes is I get to leave a footprint. So Black stories matter. And I'm excited to be a part of this panel.
Awesome, E2. Yes, they do. Black stories do matter. And thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Next, we have Chris Rowland. Chris Rowland is an American writer, director, producer, and author living and working in Cape Town, South Africa. Chris has been an integral part of the development of the South African film and television production industry since 1996. He has been involved in 80 plus film and television productions and commercials, which have won over 50 international festivals and awards and include co-productions with Angola, Germany, Canada, France, Italy, the US, and the UK. Chris has owned 7 companies in entertainment, including production, distribution, financing, and equipment rental. His most recent project, the African action film Santana, was released on Netflix this past August and reached the #1 spot worldwide for 6 straight days including the #1 spot in 34 countries. Wow, right? Chris currently focuses on consulting to the global entertainment industry and writing and directing feature films and television series. He looks forward to collaborating with Ghana, which he believes is positioned to be the next major production center in Africa. Chris?
Thank you so much, Eleanor. You know how much I love you.
Oh, I love you too.
Yeah, that introduction, thank you so much for the introduction. I kind of asked myself, when did I do all that? But of course, my hair shows that I've been doing that. I want to say thank you to the Bridge Zone and Prince Anthony Bart Apia, the Angola Tourism, and to the Art Council for inviting all of us here today. And I can say to everybody that's here viewing that this is a real impressive panel that has been assembled here. I always look people up before I get onto a panel, and I looked up everybody on the panel, and I was very impressed. I look forward to getting to know them even better. I want to mirror something that Shelby spoke about in a way, give a different little perspective on Black Stories Matter. In 1992, I left the US and traveled around the world for 3 years. I sold everything I owned, I closed down my business and put a backpack on my back. And I went into countries like Russia, I went into Vietnam, I went into Syria. It was interesting when I went to those countries because, you know, growing up in America, I had a very specific perception about those countries from what I saw from films that were made about those countries by American filmmakers. And when I went to those countries, all right? And
Okay, I went in under my.
Am I still on? Yeah. And when I went into those countries, I saw something very differently than what I had seen in those films. And subsequently, I've seen films from Russia, I've seen films from Vietnam, and from other countries that I had a perception of that were made by filmmakers from those countries. And it was a little bit different than I was used to. So this is part of the reason why I think Black stories matter. I got into the film industry because of Sergio Leone, when he made all those spaghetti westerns. Now, the westerns we know are very American, very American fare, right? Well, he had his own take on the spaghetti western, but I was highly blown away by them and got me into the industry. But that was his perception of the American West, which was different than the American West that was done by filmmakers in the US. So anybody can do a film about any culture they want to do around the world. But if we only have one set of individuals doing stories about all of these other cultures, we're only gonna have one perception, one point of view. And so we need a point of view of the people that actually live in those cultures, so that we around the world have a better understanding of what those cultures are all like. And in terms of collaboration, well, we've collaborated with, as you saw in my bio, with all those countries. We've also shot in Namibia, we've shot in Botswana, Zimbabwe, Angola, Nigeria, South Africa, Lesotho, and have done films in those countries. And South Africa was really built on collaboration and co-productions. One of the first things that we did was to establish co-productions with different countries around the world, make official co-production treaties. And that opened the door, the pathway for creating more projects and bringing projects, into the country. And that's really what launched the industry here, was that kind of collaboration. And I look forward to participating in that kind of collaboration with Ghana. I work with a lot of African countries, and I look forward to working with Ghana.
Awesome, Chris. Thank you so very much. And Ghana looks forward to working with you too. So we're going to look forward to helping to facilitate that. And as we move forward now, we have one more panelist that we're going to introduce you to, who's going to briefly offer her response to those series of questions. And then you guys in Ghana, we're super excited. We're about to transfer back over after this to you guys so that you are able to then speak with the panelists and ask questions of them, okay? So next up we have Philonise West. She's a celebrity hairstylist with almost 30 years of experience in the hair care industry. She has worked in the lead position as a hairstylist on such shows as Tyler Perry's If Loving You Is Wrong, FX's Atlanta with Childish Gambino, and HBO's Watchmen as a personal stylist for Regina King. Ms. West?
Hello. Unfortunately, I'm having some technical difficulties, but I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. I want to thank the Bridge Zone, Prince Anthony, Bart Apia, the Ghana Tourism Authority, and the Creative Arts Council. Thank you so much for having me on this panel today. Why does Black stories matter? Well, I can only start off by saying that after doing some research, there's 210 million Black stories around the globe. And after this COVID-19 pandemic, I realized that we exist. And it's time that we start sharing with one another. You know, I'm pretty much, I'm on Instagram quite a bit, and I've always admired just the culture in Africa. I've visited Africa. I've had the opportunity to teach in Nigeria. I've had the opportunity to teach also in South Africa. And it was an amazing experience. Amazing experience. And I'm so excited about coming to Ghana because I strongly feel a connection with Ghana already. And I have to say that the collaboration for me has already begun. I am hoping to visit Ghana in the near future. And I'm hoping to bring my colleagues along with me so that we can launch Hair for Real behind the scenes educational tour to be able to teach other Ghanaians and whoever else that's in the African diaspora that want to come and participate in what we have to offer in teaching behind. Guyanese to simulate events that will prepare Africa for the next level entertainment arena. So I'm looking forward to meeting you all and sharing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Letts, for sharing your expertise. I know they can't wait to have you in Ghana and to help ameliorate the situation as far as hairstyling and all for shows and all and for film. So thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate that. It would be remiss of me NBA All-Star, to be more specific. And now he's a television pundit as well as CEO of Baron Davis Enterprises. We're so pleased to have him here with us today. And Mr. Davis, just want to double check to see if you would like to share your response to the series of questions regarding do Black stories matter, and also what are some of the possibilities of collaboration in Ghana? Okay. I think Mr. Davis is going to be joining us right after these questions. So we're going to go ahead now and pass the baton back over to Ms. Ivy Prosper in Ghana. Thank you, panelists, for all your wonderful responses. And now you're going to receive questions live from the auditorium in Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Earl. Thank you so much. And thank you, panelists. So far, I know we've had some challenges here in the audience with hearing some of the conversation. Due to technology, it happens sometimes, but we roll with the punches, right? It's part of the industry we work in. We all use technology in what we do. So right now, we are going to have a Q&A session. I don't know if any of you have thought about some of the things you may want to ask of the panelists who've spoken so far. But there were some really interesting points that were made when it comes to their personal interests, when it comes to telling stories, and it comes to collaborating here in Ghana and on the continent of Africa. Does anybody have any questions they wanted to pose to the panelists? Please state your name and the industry you're in, and then who the question is for. Oh, looks like we may have lost the feed.
My name is Mauko Kwaji, and I'm CEO of MK Casting, which is a casting company in Ghana, and MK Content, which is a talent management company and production company.
May I ask you to project your voice louder, because it is difficult when we did the test earlier for them to hear. So if you could speak up, that would be great.
My name is Kokwaji, and I'm the CEO of MK Casting, which is a casting company in Ghana, and MK Content, which is a talent management company and a production company. My question is, when we say Black Story Matters, I'm sure our understanding is different from theirs. So can they tell us what they understand Black Story Matters is them? What's the of Black Story? Because we are in Ghana, and I'm not sure we are doing any white stories. So what is Black Stories? And also, do they already know some of our movies? Based on that, they'll know what we are doing right and what we are doing wrong, and how best they can advise us to move forward. Because here, there are some stories that when you tell, honestly, you won't get the market for it. But there are a lot of stories when you tell, you can easily sell them. I don't want to make examples, because there are people here who their films are very good and some are bad. So I want us to, if they can give us that clarification. And secondly, when it comes to the music too, what is the Black story in our music? Because I know our musicians are very good, but some of them are not telling the African story. And those who are really telling the African stories, they are not traveling. How can we make sure that the musicians who are telling the Black stories are traveling? Thank you very much.
Did you all hear that, panelists?
Visit Ghana.
Yes, we did.
So
yeah, we could hear him quite. I could hear him quite well, and I think it's a really really dynamic question. In particular, one of the things, again, being of obviously born in the States, but also thankfully having awareness of my my African origin. I'm representing with my dashiki with my Khan symbols on here as we speak, but that lineage is Ghanaian, it's Cameroonian, it's Nigerian, there's sprinkles from other parts of the continent. So, whenever we say black or whenever we say African, the challenge is that it's not specific. But I think the beauty of it also is that it's not specific. It's so inclusive, it's so diverse, it has such texture to it. And then, my background even has Caribbean lineage, and then Native Indigenous, lineage from this particular continent. So there's so much, again, even to use Itu's, language, which I love, is there's so many different threads, and we're woven together in so many really powerful ways that the ways everybody defines what is a Black story or what is an African story has such breadth to it that that's exactly why these relationships are so important, is getting to learning more of the nuance and learning that there are so many various perspectives throughout the diaspora, that being Black doesn't mean one thing. Some people think that being Black is just our dark, is the darkness of our skin. For somebody else, being Black represents our ethnic origin. For some people, being Black is more of a cultural thing, and how and where you grew up, and what customs and how you talk in your community and within your family, the things that you eat, the way that you dress, whatever it is. So what makes an African story an African story, or what makes a Black story a Black story, is defined in so many, many various ways. And that's exactly why these alliances and this allegiance and this unification is so important, because we're going to learn exactly how many things that we share and how many things we're actually aligned with, regardless of any of those differences. And at the same time, we're going to learn that no matter how much we are alike, there's so much to learn, and there's so many different details and specifics and really beautiful details about everyone's experience, that not until we tell the stories, not until we share the stories, not until we open up and speak with each other, not until we sit still and read and listen and participate and have the love and compassion and appreciation for each other, will we get to the real richness and depth that's there. So I think it's a very profound question, and that's at least the way it speaks to me, in that it's the desire to define it, I think is even though definition and identity is important, the desire to define exactly what a Black story is or exactly what an African story is, I think is the least of our concerns. It's really opening up all of the unlimited, potential and dynamic possibilities of what it actually is to be an African story, and to be the Black story in living proof, and all of the rich traditions that we know that are passed down orally. Think about all the cultures that exist where some of this stuff isn't written down. It's not in the motion picture. It's not in a book. And there's so much, richness and so much wealth and so much, again, capital. I use the language creative capital all the time. There's so much wealth of information and beauty and love and again, like I said, depth of information there, that once we really get to it, we'll learn there is no way to define it. It's infinite. It's constantly evolving. And the more we share and then create new things together, it'll create a whole nother life of its own.
That's great. Awesome. Thank you. Just before we go to Shelby, just wanted to acknowledge that Baron Davis has, in fact, joined us. Hello, Mr. Davis.
What up,
good to see you. Good to see you. And so, Ms. Stone, would you mind speaking to that first question as well, if you would? Thank you.
Oh, sure. All right, so let's take the case of Moonlight, right? Which was an absolutely beautiful film written by an African-American man about a particular African-American experience, right? That movie is only a Black movie, as it is thought of, because of racism. Because in the definition of not being majority culture, that becomes a Black movie. And that's what I was trying to say in my introduction. That story, if you look at it only from the lens of race, might make you think that you can't relate to it, right? But in fact, it's a universal story about a little boy and his troubled mother and his complicated navigating to adulthood. But because, especially, I don't know, in the West, Western cultures, which are not predominantly dark-skinned peoples, right? White America has designated anything that does not look like them as being other. So there's Latinx stories, there are Hispanic stories, all of the designations. And that's why I will say to the gentleman who asked the question, I am not familiar with Ghanaian cinema, and I look forward to learning more about it and meeting all of the creators. But I think that what's important is that we tell great stories with people of color, by people of color, and give people of color the same access and opportunity to tell stories. Because those stories, again, about love, about family, about hurt, about loss, these are universal ideas. These aren't exclusive to any particular race or culture. I hope that answers the question.
Well done. Most definitely, I think it does. We're going back now to Ms. Ivory Prosper for another question from the audience.
thank you for those great responses to that question, and it's an excellent question. Excellent question about what are Black stories, because I know it is a question that comes up in Ghana.
Hello?
I've heard it before. Because you're in a Black African country, so you may not always be thinking about what a Black story is. And the reality is, when you think about, let's say you think about CNN or BBC, and they come to Africa and they tell a story, there are many times when Africans are outraged by the way they told the story. So that's an example of why we need to tell our stories from the Black perspective, from the African perspective. So I thank you for that question, excellent question. Does anyone else have a question? I think there was a gentleman who was after him.
Hello?
Oh, he has the mic already.
Yes, so about telling our stories, I'm really happy about that. I'm Aram Tawia, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of a gaming company called Letty Arts. So I was really happy listening to the gaming person on the panel. So my question is that what will it take for you to consciously partner a company from Africa? Because I've been to the US several times, to GDC, talking about games in Africa, and it's a rising community. Actually, games is non-existent much here. It's very nascent, and we are trailblazers in that industry here. But as you mentioned, it's bigger than the movie and the music industry combined. And we see that potential of 1 billion people on this continent. We all talk about telling great stories and preserving them in games and digital formats. So my question is that, what would you look out for in a game company and in Africa, and if you are prepared in terms of research on the continent, in terms of the investment that you would need to scale the company from this part, Africa, be at par with what you are used to in the US? Because technically, we don't have much skill sets here. We are all self-taught. We have great storytellers, great artists, but they are not trained in the gaming space. You need that layer. There's that gap to onboard every storyteller, every artist, every filmmaker into games, even musicians. And the opportunity is every music here is yet to have a game. Every movie here is yet to have a game and animation or comics, right? So it's a huge industry. So what are you looking for, and how should we be prepared, and what sort of investment are you going to bring to the continent in this sector? Thank you.
Okay, great. Baron Davis, would you please take that question? Thank you.
Asante could have let it off a little better than me.
Okay, you were requested, I'm sorry.
This is exciting. This is exciting
Okay.
here. I think, when we talk about, creativity, when you talk about artists on all walks of life, I think the goal is, when you talk about gaming, it's the design, it's the storytelling, it's all of that coming together synergistically, right? Where I would say I could be a great resource is looking at the IP and, the challenges, or, I would say the jewel is, be game developers, right? Build out get together, build, a game development company, which I'm sure you have, right? And start bringing in the artists, bringing in the writers, right? Let's design a game or even a proof of concept, right? And that right now we're living in a world in digital, right, where IP is golden, right? If they say, content is king, it's the technology and the investment of technology. That's the kingdom, to be able to share content. And so for me, I look on Twitter, I look on Instagram, I'm on YouTube, and I'm looking all over the world, for those artists, for those developers, for those engineers. And I would say on our end of it, it's really about IP. So being able to, let's partner, let's figure out, who are the investors in gaming here or the other VCs that we deal with, right? How do you partner with a gaming development company here and be a part of that, to help them scale globally? And then I think also just panels like this and workshops allow us to kind of like target our investment dollars right into a portal that we know that will bring opportunities to help our people grow.
That's awesome. And Asante Bradford, would you mind please adding to that? Thank you.
Sure. Well, like what I would say to the question is, I've actually got a chance to see it from the ground floor here in Georgia or Atlanta. When I started, there were like 3 game companies here, and now we have over 150 game companies here. So to get back to your question, it's not an overnight thing. Well, again, in all of this, what we're talking about, none of it's overnight. It takes time. But there's components that you can do to build it out. And you're right, investment is definitely one of those, but talent is another huge part of that. And I think the benefit that we have in this conversation is definitely what Mr. Davis is talking about, is creative IP. There are so many creative stories that haven't even touched the video game, and I think that's kind of where you were going with your questions. So a lot of it is talent, but what we've seen here is, again, once we've now hit this point where we're hitting 150 game companies, that was all organic growth. There was no big game companies that was part of that mix. But once we got to that level, then all of a sudden the bigger game companies are looking at us and they start acquiring companies. That's how they have come here to Atlanta. So again, what we're talking, if we're building out, starting on the ground floor, literally from STEAM type initiatives in the US that, again, that's technology, teaching our kids and actually getting there. Coding is a big part of what happens in the gaming. But again, as one of the panelists talked about too, Mr. Evans talked about how all of those touch points, music, they all touch and play together inside of a video game. So to wrap it up and to answer your question, I would just say it's a process, but it's something that I think this panel, we're all capable of doing it. And now we're to the point here in Georgia where the investment part is actually happening, where people are actually, well, what is a return on a game? Again, we're relatively new to the entertainment being here in Georgia now. Now we're #1 in the world for film and television. We're top 5 for video gaming. We're top 5 for music. And it takes all of that to come together. And then I've had a conversation. I'm not going to say the name of the game company, but he literally hit me the other day as an African American. He's like, how many African American game companies do you have in Georgia? And he's like, that's probably the only way we're going to be able to come to Georgia is we have to acquire a company. So he asked me, how many African American game companies are there? We're interested in acquiring them, and that's how they would make that move. We've been blessed. We had actually a big one called Ubisoft. That's how they got here. They actually acquired one of our companies, and now we're talking about Ubisoft moving here. So I would say it's a process. It takes time, but literally you have the intellectual capital on this panel, especially Professor Earl, we've had these discussions that we can literally bring all of this together.
Yeah.
They all play together. It's just not gaming, it's animation, it's music, it's film.
Yes.
And I would just like to add, that was an incredible I would like to add that there's a business inside the game of gaming, right? And so it's not just about, what we may think is, the broader narratives, right? Console games, big storytelling games. There's also hyper casual games. There's also betting platforms, right? There's also SaaS platforms, and so, there's opportunities to, one, you want to look at the big picture, but I also think drilling down and understanding where are all the business opportunities that exist within gaming. And, I'm sure that's how the ecosystem in Atlanta grew, especially here in LA, right? It was a gaming company here. It was a product company here. It was a team here. So you need that communal ecosystem, but start to drill down on, what are the industries and the genres inside gaming, right? And start looking at holes and opportunities to build things that may not be the storytelling game you want to build right now, right? And so it's steps and processes to it.
That's excellent. And as you both have said, this is just wide open for possibilities as far as collaboration, which goes back to our earlier question very specifically about what potential things we can do both in Ghana and specifically with Atlanta. As Asante Bradford mentioned, we've been talking about how to work with the Bridge Zone to create a wonderful bridge, if you will, between Atlanta, Georgia, and Ghana, Accra, Ghana specifically, and other parts of all of Ghana, to actually help with facilitation of training, as Asante mentioned, in the area of gaming and animation and other areas for film and television as well. So that's something that's in the works as far as discussions, and I know that Baron Davis has a great interest in that and others on this panel. So there are definitely great possibilities, and we'll look forward to delving into this particular subject more. Back over to you, Ms. Prosper. There's another question.
So I wanted to, before we take the next question, I wanted to acknowledge some people who are here in attendance today. We have Dada KD, who's here, Kecha Abuaje, Gloria Safo is here as well. I know I saw her earlier. Are you still here? Kwesi Oteng, artist. We have Bessa Simons, Reverend Thomas Yawson, and I saw Yofi Grant, the CEO of GIPC earlier, but for some reason I don't see him now, but he was here. Pascaline Edwards, actress. We also have Eddie Kufor, who is an actor here in Ghana. Thank you all for being here and your presence today. I love the questions that have come so far, investing in animation, the question about Black stories. Keep them coming, because that's what this whole thing is all about. And I want to let everybody know that there will be contacts shared. So if there's things that you are interested in asking and you're not able to do so today, contacts will be shared from this panel, all right? So the next question, he has the microphone already, and then we have one here who is waiting to ask a question too.
Yeah, hi, my name is James Gardner and I'm an actor. I'm sorry if I'm going to ask any question that has already been spoken about because we had some difficulty hearing everything that was being said. I want to ask a question in line of production since I'm an actor. Me being an actor, if I probably hope to sell my craft off the shores of Ghana, I mean, it has to be visible. Visibility-wise, I'm talking about it being on international platforms or most likely being a part of a production that will travel as far as getting international recognition. Now, if we don't get the chance for that to happen, it almost feels as if we count on luck. It almost feels as if we count on luck to be recognized. Like if, for instance, I feature in 20 movies and none of them make its way to international platforms like Netflix and so on, then that means that I am doing very well here as an actor, but I'm not selling my country or, you know, our African craft off the shores or beyond the shores of Ghana. And that has been, you know, quite a problem for some time because I would like to know what are some of the measures being put in place production-wise, especially Laman. I'm a huge fan of your work as well. I would like to know if any particular measures have been put in place here to sort of help some of us here who are looking for that sort of ladder to get to wherever it is that you are, you know, obviously Hollywood, and showcase my craft to the entire world. You also made mention about setting up a production here, and I want to know whether you're involving any acts from here as well, because it's through that my brother Abraham Atta also got recognized and even got featured in a movie as big as Spider-Man. So we need things like that. So if you could kindly just touch on that and, you know, share a word or two. Thank you.
Okay, Thank you so very much for that question. Chris, I'm going to ask you to actually take this one, and I'll just preface it first by saying this is part of the formative stage at which we are exploring the possibilities and finding out from you, like your question is very helpful, in finding out what is needed. So we're taking that litmus test right now and just finding out, and then from there, we'll be able to continue building our general plan, but a well-informed plan based upon what the needs are. So Chris, would you speak to this? Thank you.
Thank you, Elder. So to answer the gentleman about him as an actor, because the question he asked speaks to a couple other questions about how do our movies travel, and what do we look for in other places that we would want to get involved in things. The answer to that for me is always one answer, as simple as talent. I'm always looking for talent. I'm looking for either talent in an actor, talent in a written script, talent in a director, talent in production teams. You know, that's the thing that I look for the most. And I think probably everybody in the panel probably would agree with that. We're looking for something that's, you know, special, unique, people that are committed to their craft. In terms of him as an actor, how does he get known outside of his country? One of the things that happened here in South Africa is, you know, we're now in the top 5 production destinations in the world. And we grew from doing 2-3 films a year when I first started with the country back in 1995, to now making 30 to 50 films per year that go internationally. And we do about 600 international commercials every season. That takes time to develop that over a period of time, and there's a whole lot of parties that have to come together in order for that to happen. There has to be collaboration between the private sector and the public sector in Ghana and in other countries in Africa and around the world. As I mentioned earlier, one of the things that we did in South Africa was to enter into treaty co-productions with other countries. Because what that does, that enables each of those countries to access content, skills, financing, and other attributes that they wouldn't otherwise have in their home countries. So that's how, one of the ways, and I think it's one of the ways I would certainly recommend to Ghana, is to look at, either looking at official international treaty co-productions, or in the private sector, looking at setting up with government, I'm setting up at least some collaborations with other countries that have a meaningful way in which they enter into those collaborations. It can't just be one saying, we want you to come and spend your money here and do something. It has to be something that's an exchange between the two. I would say the other thing that with the actors, because one of the things that happened with a lot of the South African actors that suddenly became quite well known internationally, they left and they went to the US. And now we're like, where'd all of our great actors go? They've gone off to the US because they want to work there. The interesting thing that you might want to consider is that some of those actors have come back to South Africa. Now that we're doing so much work, they've come back. One, because they like being back in their home country with their family, with their friends, with the culture that they know and they understand, and telling the stories that they want to tell here. So I would tell you to think long and hard about whether or not you want to go overseas and to be an actor there. If you go to Los Angeles, I'm from Los Angeles, I'll tell you, you're going to be 1 in a million. In Ghana, I suspect that you're 1 in very few. And so your chances are probably even better.
So Chris, thank you for that. But can we also speak very specifically to the potential possibilities here? So earlier we spoke about your film Santana, which was at #1 again on Netflix and all. And there's the possibility you're considering, and we will continue talks with the Bridge Zone and other members of the tourism committee and others, authority rather, about doing the sequel in Ghana. So in terms of the possibility of creating potential opportunities, I think that's also part of what he's asking is, are any of us on this panel contemplating that possibility as well, so that there will be opportunities for local creatives to potentially participate if everything comes together?
We thought about Ghana before I knew about this panel.
Exactly.
The reason why is because we heard such wonderful things about Ghana, and it's been on my radar for some time.
Yes.
One of the interesting things about the film industry for people in government there is not only does the film industry, when you're developing your country, help the tourism, it also creates for that country a political status that they didn't have and enjoy before. because it shows places and it shows the country like it's never been seen before. So, we shot part of Santana in Angola, so that exposed Angola. It's now the first film that's been on Netflix that was an Angola film, or an Angola co-production with South Africa. So we have several projects that we could definitely do in Ghana, and we very open to having those conversations and to see what Ghana can bring to us and what we can bring to Ghana. I'm very
Great.
open to having those kind of conversations.
Exactly. And the Bridge Zone will be very happy to facilitate that conversation. And yes, as you told me when I first approached you about this panel, and you mentioned that you'd already thought about Ghana, that was very exciting. So thank you for that consideration. Additionally, Shelby Stone mentioned a bit earlier too. I don't know if the gentleman heard her initially, but there's the possibility and consideration for your work there from the adaptation. Would you mind speaking to that a bit, Shelby, if you would?
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay, thank you.
So I don't know, sir, if you were in the room when we were talking about it, but Zora Neale Hurston wrote a book. It was her very first book, but it ended up only being published a few years ago because of a dispute with the publisher. So that book is her, at the beginning of her career, interviewing a gentleman at the end of his life. And he was a native of Africa, having been sold into slavery, and he is a very beautiful and detailed conversation about his tribe, which he believes he's the last living member of. So that's a project. We have a really great young Black American female writer-director named Angel Christie Williams. We've been talking about Ghana, and it was one of the things that made us very excited when Eleanor reached out to me about putting this panel together, because it is something, actually there are locations in Ghana that are in the book. So, I'm looking forward to more conversations with the Bridge Zone and other of the officials in Ghana when we get to the stage when it comes to planning out shooting. So, and that would be opportunities for Ghanaian filmmakers and Ghanaian crew to play a role in those segments of this multiple part miniseries that would be there.
Great, that's excellent. Thank you so much for sharing. My work is reading it now. Yes.
It's a great book. Yeah. And
excellent.
Yes.
What were you going to say, Shelby?
I said, it's a great homage to this man, Cujo Lewis, but it's also a wonderful story about a young, now again, this is America, so she is Black, Zora Neale Hurston, and it is a Black story because it's also the way in which she finds her voice as an artist, as a teller of stories about our people in America, and in our voices, right? As opposed to anglicizing our language and all of the kinds of dialects that grew up from people who were brought as slaves and learned English, but passed a particular patois to their various communities. So.
Okay, great. Thank you so very much. And
thank you. We have another question from the audience.
Okay, I'm Sherry Thompson, and 2 years ago I put together a platform called SFX Global Africa, and we now have 109 people, creatives from Ghana and from other parts of the world on that platform. Yes, WhatsApp is very important here in Africa. Raquel, who's on the platform, she's a producer from California, and she's asking the question. So she's wondering, are you coming here to make movies, or are you offering your resources from abroad? And she was specific to mention Shelby and Shelby's project, and that you mentioned that you were coming to shoot here. But she'd want to know the action steps from everybody on the panel for coming to Africa, for building this industry here, because Black stories do matter. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Let's see. RJ, would you mind talking about potential possibilities? And I was thinking of your amazing project, one of many that you're doing down in Miami, and some of the possibilities for something like that and other things in Ghana. Could you speak to that? Thank you.
Sure. Well, listen, I think that since this is something everybody's going to talk about, there's going to be a lot of great conversation points around the creative side of things and the synergies. So I'll talk a little bit more from the investment side of things. When it comes to investors like myself, companies like ourselves, investing into companies, investing into films that are happening, it always comes down to the same considerations. What's in the best interest of the investors in the project? What is most likely going to generate the lowest amount of risk for them, the greatest amount of return? Where's the best opportunity to go do something? As you look here in the States, you would find a project happening in Georgia long before you would find something happening in Ohio. Why is that? Because Georgia offers tremendous tax incentives to have people come down there and work. They have tremendous infrastructure in place so that when you come down and you shoot, you have sound stages that are available, you have talent that are down there, you have crew that are down there. Same thing when you talk about places like Toronto, where you have local municipalities, you have national governments that put together programming that make it advantageous for investors to come to those areas and spend their dollars there. And that is what it will come down to every single time. Now, there are always compelling stories. There are always reasons to pull stories out of places, but to come into a location, that's always what it comes down to. It comes down to how can we create an environment that is advantageous for business, period. And governments are very smart about that with the way that they structure things. If you go to Toronto or if you go to Australia, the incentive packages that are there are based around if you're hiring local talent to work on these projects, then your benefit is different. If you're bringing in your own crew that is from the United States or that's from the UK, the benefit is different for you because we want to try to drive growth into the local communities for the workflow, for the credits, for everything else. Because, going back to the gentleman much earlier in the day who asked about, how does my gaming company grow? How does my gaming company get those opportunities? You get those opportunities by developing a resume and having some successes and a track record of success in working inside of the industry. And the way that you do that is, again, as we've talked about through this entire process, is being put into a position to have the opportunity to have those successes because the talent's there. You have to be put in the position to have the opportunity to be successful. And I think that from everything that I've learned thus far, there's a significant appetite at the government and regional level inside of Ghana to start facilitating those opportunities there. I certainly know that with Eleanor and the resources that she has and that we all have available to you guys, we can help with those conversations and put together those partnerships and put together those ideas that will incentivize filmmakers like Shelby and others to go, hey, listen, guys, RJ, I want you to put $5 million into this movie. And you know what? We're going to go down to Ghana, and there's going to be a great tax rebate that's competitive or better than what we're going to get in keeping it local here in Georgia. And it's going to be phenomenal because we're going to be able to do this, that, and the other thing. And as an investor, that's what's going to matter to me. Because there's only ever two types of investors in the world. There are high net worth guys who are investing their own money, where I'm taking it out of my personal bank account, I'm putting it out into a project, where in those circumstances, it can be something that's near and dear to my heart. Because if the project fails, I only have my wife that's going to kill me. Then there's the rest of us, where we have companies that other people have placed their investment dollars with us. We're investing on their behalf. We have a job to make sure that we're investing into good things that are going to generate returns. Look, successes happen, failures happen. Everybody knows that. But we have to make sure that we make decisions about what we invest other people's money into in the most advantageous, risk-averse way that we possibly can. That's most likely going to result in a success for them. And that's always what it comes down to when it comes to how do you forge new partnerships with new regions that are looking to grow into our industry. And that goes across the board, whether you're talking about film, whether you're talking about TV, whether you're talking about music, fashion, any of it. All of it will ultimately begin from the people who put the money into the projects and into the tables being incentivized to come forward and do so. That's what it'll come down to.
That's great. That's so helpful, RJ. And ultimately, it's very encouraging to know that you do see the great potential. And you pointed out something really important regarding making sure that the environment is right as far as those tax incentives and things as well. And I'd like to go over to Asante Bradford to speak to that, because we have been talking about coming together to create, again, a liaison between Atlanta, Georgia specifically, and the state of Georgia, and some of the incentive programs they have to be able to facilitate both the exchange of artists coming from Ghana, going over to Atlanta, and vice versa, so that there's this cross-cultural collaboration and something real and tangible that people can hold on to, and that we can create content together that can then receive the type of distribution that we all are seeking in terms of the collaboration as well. So Asante, would you mind speaking again to that, and even more specifically about setting the stage for that?
Thanks, Eleanor. Yeah, I think RJ, you just nailed it. Literally, that is kind of what Eleanor and I have been talking about. And you're right. Right now, in the U.S., the international co-production deals, there's really none. Mostly our neighbors, Canada, does thousands of them. So, RJ, I think you nailed it. How do we come together? Well, for projects in the creative industries, we are literally one of the only states here in the U.S. that actually have tax credits across the board. We have them for film, television, gaming, animation, music, and now we added post-production last year as well. So even what RJ is talking about is something where if we do a joint tax credit or something for investors to benefit, we can shoot the movie there and then bring the post-production here, or shoot the movie here and bring the post-production there, and literally you can combine that for investors to almost take away all of the risk just because of the tax credits. And then the other thing RJ's talking about too is when you do that we've seen here in Georgia, you're bringing together a community. As you're building a community, you're building the talent, you're building the work and the jobs. And that's where it all starts. So I think RJ literally just laid it out, what we need to do. That's the start. Once you build that infrastructure, that's going to want investors to want to invest in movies and gaming and animation projects that are coming out of Ghana. That's what put us on the map. Again, we weren't even in the mix when you talk about it. It used to be called Runaway Production. It went to Canada, here in the U.S. One of our states, Louisiana, that literally jumped on that. And then that's kind of what we did. And we created something very unique. And hopefully you have seen that, where at the end of our TV shows, at the end of our animation and gaming projects, there is actually you see a little Georgia logo. Hopefully you've seen that behind some of our shows. Well, what that is marketing. So, and that's an additional 10% credit that you will get just for marketing that you shot it here. Things that you can do as well in Ghana, as you want to lower productions and all that to come there. You can literally incentivize them to come shoot there, to build talent there, and to just all of that is literally there. So I would answer it just kind of like with RJ. I think he really gave the essence of what the government, on the government side, of what we do and what we can bring to the table.
Can I hop in there very quickly too?
Oh, sure.
Because I really there's so much there. And I want to speak to that from a couple different perspectives. One, as a working artist, content creator, producer as well, as someone who, like Asante saying, it sounds like he and I started working in and out of the Atlanta market probably around the same time. He probably more full-time than myself, but I've had the privilege to be on 2 highly successful series that actually shot in Atlanta, but I came into Atlanta from Los Angeles. And I've also shot 1, 2, 3, counting the one I just did, I've shot 5 films in Atlanta as well. So, and that's since late 2006, so almost exactly 14 years from this conversation. And against my expectation, I've come in and out of Atlanta and worked in and out of Atlanta professionally at a very high level. And what I learned throughout that process, similar to some of Asante's statements, is I've witnessed the progression very specifically, right, and hands-on. I've seen the increase in people who have relocated or come back, or who've moved from Carolinas when they lost their incentives, who moved from Michigan when they lost their incentives. When Katrina hit, even, they moved from Louisiana right when they were actually trying to build infrastructure and create opportunity there. Atlanta still is the regional hub. I shot a previous series of mine in Charleston, South Carolina. A lot of the crew came from Atlanta, came from North Carolina, came from Florida. Some people came out from LA. You're seeing Dick Wolf do a lot more in Chicago now. Even a major city like Chicago didn't really have the same kind of volume of activity until different content creators made the commitment to say, we're going to push this in that direction. But if the market can't handle it, to a large degree, what RJ's really, articulated very well. One of the things I made a commitment to do during my years in Atlanta is in particular to train actors, is in particular to consider that market, even actually being a Pittsburgh boy. So I was actually born in Pittsburgh, grew up around the world, but when I went back for college, I learned how much is shot in the city of Pittsburgh. It blew my mind. And what I learned is even in a city like Atlanta or like Pittsburgh or like Charleston or wherever, you might be very surprised at what their actual capacity is. If that city, if that municipal government, and in particular, if the educational institutions, and this is where I want to speak to everybody over in Ghana also about. So as a small business development guy and a businessman myself, speaking to the entrepreneurs there, I saw specifically in Atlanta when people were looking for caterers and couldn't find them. I remember times where people were looking, okay, you know what? This scene we need to shoot next week, we need a florist. We need, 30 dozen, roses, and we got a big wedding scene or this, gala that we got to shoot or whatever it is. So small business development opportunity is so key. The need for suppliers to do and provide the things like the vendor opportunity that exists. So if we're talking, if this is considered an early conversation, that's before the real volume of work, that's actually going to come to Ghana comes as we're in these developmental stages of what these partnerships and alliances going to look like. Now is the time. I want to be very clear to all of the artists and all of the entrepreneurs, all of the educators, all of the politicians and leaders there. Now's the time to actually do the very specific and intentional groundwork to make sure the market can handle what is going to be required. There's nothing more debilitating than trying to shoot something and you lose power, right? Because literally the physical infrastructure on the power grid cannot handle the volume of work and equipment and electricity or heat or air conditioning or whatever that needs to happen there. The solar opportunity there in Africa is, internet access, trucking, again.
From styling to hairstyling.
Yeah, everything. Now's the time, y'all. I'm trying to tell you right 100%. Now. If you're not trained up, you better get trained up right now. If you don't know how to run or start a business, learn and start learning how to develop. And if you are already in business, cultivate it. Look for other partnerships. Look for acquisition and or merging your business with other people who do have the know-how, so that you have the capacity. So as the market scales up, you're in a position to scale up and meet the need and meet the demand, and the opportunity there is endless. I've seen countless numbers of people in the Atlanta market itself since I've had the opportunity during Greenleaf and Meet the Browns in particular as television series. They're somewhere for 5, 6, 7 years at a time. You see how much work and how many more people, and just as quickly as the market starts to grow, the talent starts to thin out because now there are other productions coming pulling on the same talent pool. So there's more demand, but there's also more competition. So to the actors, really quick, the gentleman who's an actor who asked the question, yes, when any production comes to your city, your country, your market, just like the film that I mentioned that I'm co-executive producing and penning right now, Shelby's project and countless other things that I'm sure are going to come this way from the rest of this collective. the opportunity is always going to be there for local talent. So there's a gentleman earlier who said he was a casting director, I believe. You two need to know each other. When we bring our productions there, when we bring, like myself, would be attached to the project that I bring there as a lead and as an executive producer. And hey, Shelby, maybe there's a place for me in Barracoon too. But no matter what kind of talent we bring there, there's always the need for authentic and talented local talent. So if you are there, you're already an asset. So when those opportunities come there, you should be on the top of the list. Your resume should speak for itself. Absolutely.
Yes,
Now's the time to get ready so that you will be ready. Because we need you. Everybody needs each other.
Yes, that was fabulous. I tell you, you guys collectively, I think, really handled that question quite well. And I just want to wrap before I go back to Ivy Prosper by saying, again, yes, this is the moment that my company, Yellow Entertainment, will work along with the Bridge Zone to help facilitate continuing these discussions with members of this panel regarding considerations and moving forward, and those who are not with us today as well. There are many limitless possibilities, but preparation, again, is everything. And again, wanting to make sure that training, as an educator, I'll just speak briefly to that, it is important to deal with the preparedness of people in those different fields, to include hairstyling and all. That's huge for any production. Can you imagine, for film and television? Also for costuming and design and all, set production, everything. So we want to make sure that all the different sectors are examined in terms of where they currently are and then where we need to get them to in order to be, as Mr. Bruckner and others have said, ready and prepared for what we want to happen, which is the influx of creative projects coming to Ghana for production. And I have great confidence that we're going to be able to work with you to do that. I'll pass it back over now to Ivy Prosper for, I believe, our next question.
Thank you. That was an excellent question. Definitely something that I'm sure you all have thought about, because how many of you have gone to events and programs and you've met people, you've networked, and you hope it goes somewhere and then it just ends there, right? So that's why with this panel, there's the promise that contacts will be shared so that you can continue with the conversation. You can continue with working towards having real collaborations that are fruitful, not just a conversation that ends today. So I'm letting everyone know once again that contacts are going to be shared. Everyone who was here was invited to be here. This wasn't something that was open to the public to come. Everyone was invited to be here because you're important in this creative arts industry here in Ghana. So make sure that we come through with our word, follow through, and make sure that you get the contacts that I'm telling you you're going to get from this conversation. It's really important to keep things going. I want to mention people who are here again. I saw Amake Abebrese. Amake, how are you? Thanks for being here. There's also Kwame Eugene is here today as well. I'm going to ask you a music question in a moment, Professor Earl. Trickmatic is here. We have Ken Fiati is here as well. George Quay, who's a producer. I should put my glasses on. I'm here reading without my glasses. I'm in denial. I'm always in denial. Elikem the tailor is here representing fashion. I saw Chocolate here somewhere. He was wandering around. Akosia Kekeli is here. Roslyn Ngisa is here. Abranti the gentleman. James Gardner. Bandex, the movie producer. Gloria Safo is here. And Kache Kwame, the musician. Now, as you can tell from my accent, I am Ghanaian, but I grew up in Canada, so I apologize if I've said some of your names incorrectly. I do my absolute best. So you can come to me later and make a correction if I've butchered your name. It was not intentional, all right? So there is one panelist that was unable to make it today because something came up, and that is Mr. Vasal Benford, who is the music mogul that was supposed to be here today. I do know that you do some work with him, Professor Earl, so I wanted to throw a question to you with respect to music, because we do have musicians here who may want to do collaborations. We do have Ghanaian artists who have become internationally awarded and renowned and respected, and we want more of that to happen. So being someone who works in music, what are the steps that you or your colleague, Mr. Benford, would take towards building the relationships so that collaborations can begin between Ghanaians and artists in the diaspora?
Okay, thank you, first of all, for that question. And first, it would be remiss of me not to offer you a direct message from Mr. Vasal Benford. Again, he's a Grammy-nominated American producer, a music mogul, and that music mogul today got pulled away unexpectedly due to something that just couldn't be helped. He asked me to please, I'm reading this following message off of my phone to you, please tell everyone in Ghana that I love them and I love Ghana and its people. And he said, it's not just talking about what I can do, but it's about doing it. He's really committed to exploring all the possibilities of what we can do together because he has a true heart and love for Ghana. So again, many apologies from him, but this couldn't be helped. I'm very blessed and lucky to say, I don't just know Mr. Benford, we are actually partnered in business together. So what I can share with you today is about a firm commitment and discussions that have already been underway with Prince Anthony Bart-Api of the Bridge Zone quite extensively regarding possibilities related to music in terms of an interest in exploring collaborations and all. And very specifically, I work as also a music video producer and director as well. And my partner, I have another partner, Shomi Patwari, who's a well-known director, and we have a company, Elusive Media. And there are a number of artists that we're already working with. We're already looking at some artists in Ghana specifically who could potentially be on board some of the projects that we're working on. The Benford Company has wonderful wide distribution through Warner Music and also relationships with Sony and all the big ones. And I have a great interest myself personally in exploring the possibility of doing a record label as well. And so that's something that I've mentioned also with Mr. Benford's interest in that. We want to explore that possibility with the Bridge Zone further. And so this is something already in the works in terms of being talked about, and it's just really a matter of setting things up and doing the research to know who's there, who's available, what types of genres are being explored, how can we explore collaborations with American artists and Ghanaian artists, and we are 100% open to exploring that and building it. And again, as Mr. Benford is trying to stress, not just talking about it, but really being about the business of putting things together to facilitate moving this forward. So super excited about that possibility of getting that going sooner than later.
Thank you, Professor Earl. We are going to throw it back to the panel for a few minutes, and then we'll have another Q&A session before we close for the evening. We will be closing at 6:30, and then have an opportunity to grab some small bites and drinks that we'll have, and then you get a chance to network and get to know each other if you don't, or reconnect with people that you haven't seen in a long time. It's all about collaboration. So I'm going to send it back to you, Professor Earl, for the last portion of the panel for a few minutes before we do another Q&A session and close. And I want to remind everybody once again that we are going to be sharing contacts so that you can continue the conversation and building and engaging and develop those relationships so that you can help to grow the industry of creative arts in Ghana outside of the continent. Professor Earl?
Thank you so much, Ms. Prosper. If you could just clarify for me one quick thing, just how many more minutes we are going to be speaking with the panel right now before we come back to questions. If you could just tell me that. Thank you. Okay.
Professor.
So at this point, I'd very much like to go to a section that we haven't had a chance to talk about very much today. Mr. E2 Evans, I'm coming back to you now, just to give you a quick heads up.
Okay.
I would very much like to hear from you at this point a bit further about some of the really exciting things that you're working on, and very specifically, however, that fall into this very important discussion regarding what might you do as an entrepreneur, and things do you have in mind that we've discussed briefly, or maybe some we haven't, that can potentially take place in Ghana, and as far as collaborations and also in partnerships and things as such, and bringing projects and work to Ghana as it relates to the fashion industry specifically.
Sure. My vision for Ghana is to actually set up sustainable fashion. I see myself empowering community, bringing together designers of color to make a statement with sustainable fashion. Hemp in particular, it's been around forever. It can be used not only for fabrics or textiles, but for concrete, so many different things. I would love to set up a production facility. There are so many people and so many myths and stereotypes about African production. I actually worked as a consultant and professor teaching textiles. And we would use some African symbols in our work for interiors as well as for fashion apparel. So that's one collaboration that I'm very much interested in. The second thing would be, I would say beauty, the beauty industry, creating products using CBD. So I've developed a company called E2ology that speaks to that. I spoke at the UN and I received a lot of interest from people from Ghana as well as other countries in Africa. So those are two areas in the industry that I'm interested in. The fashion side as well as the beauty side as it pertains specifically to cosmetics.
That's really great. Would you mind expounding just a bit more on just how exactly you see working with Ghana in those respects?
Sure, I would like to set up a production facility in Ghana to execute the vision.
Okay, and what about collaborating with some of the other creators for the product line and all as well? You might be open to exploring.
Oh, absolutely. I think it would be very helpful. I've spent more time in Nigeria, but I know that moringa comes out of Africa. And it's a product that some people are familiar with in the US and then some people aren't. But I'm interested in finding out cultivation of other products and herbs that might enhance the longevity, the elasticity, and beauty of skin that might not be native to this continent.
Okay, excellent. And in terms of fashion and interior design and accessories, and I want Ms. Philonis West to know I'm going to be coming to you next regarding the same question. So can you speak to that, even specifically regarding some of the design work as far as your clothing line and other things in greater detail and possible collaborations that way?
Sure. I'm looking to actually develop a design team, and I would love to have designers from Ghana to be a part of that, to bring that aesthetic. I think in the US, a lot of people have a misconception, and they think that designers of color are monolithic in their aesthetic, and that's just not true. We're broad thinkers, and I love the whole international appeal in my designs. And I know lots of designers who are from the continent who offer a unique sensibility and perspective. And I think putting that together with my global experience and taste level, we could do something quite significant to impact the economy.
That's excellent news. And we know that there are many really very talented people. I follow tons of profiles and all from Ghana in fashion and hairstyling and all sorts of things. And there's so much potential there. That's excellent. Thank you for sharing. And now we're going over to Ms. Philonis West. Are you there, Ms. West?
I'm here, Professor Earl. Thank you.
Awesome. It would be wonderful just to hear from you. You've been doing so many amazing things, and I know that you have a wonderful product that's natural and all. Can you talk about that and how you might also, you do tons of training globally already as well, Could you speak to the possibilities with regard to what you'd be interested in doing with creatives in Ghana?
Oh, most definitely. Some colleagues and I, we are in all hair and makeup. We are all in the industry, the film industry, and we want to collaborate, come to Ghana, and we want to share our techniques, our skills, our secrets on character building, breaking down scripts, and just preparing you to be able to do a great job for the film industry. So we want to come, we want to just really experience Ghana. We want to be able to teach Ghana. We want to be able to learn from Ghana. That's pretty much what we want to do when I come out there. Also, too, I do have a product line called Golden Strand International, Herbal Oil Remedies. This product is a supplement product that will enhance hair growth. So I'm hoping that I can come out there and just expand.
Okay, and explore possibilities with other talented hairstylists who might aspire to do what you're doing now. Can you speak to part of what your journey was to becoming the lead hairstylist on a major show like Watchmen? Can you speak to that just to encourage some of those who might be there in this moment and that you'd be able to meet with in Ghana?
Almost definitely. Networking. I networked amongst other hairstylists and worked on several different projects, and just word of mouth. Regina found out about me through other artists, and when I got the position, I was excited. Watching it turned out to be an amazing show, and it was an amazing story. When you're talking about Black stories, when you're talking about in the 1920s, we reenacted Black Wall Street, which was an amazing production. I don't know if you're familiar with the Watchmen. I don't know if you got a chance to watch it, but the reenactment was very hard for a lot of us when we filmed it. But we had 1920 hairstyles. We had all different types of looks. The 1920s, 1960s. We did all different types of character building for the Watchmen. So I'm hoping that we can come to Ghana to be able to expand their minds when it comes down to character building.
Okay, great. That sounds really interesting. It's really great to point out that with each production that would happen in Ghana, depending upon the period in which it's set and all, everything from the clothing to the hair, the makeup and all would need to be historically accurate. So that's the type of training also that potentially would be needed in terms of the type of preparation that Mr. Rucker was speaking of in terms of those different sectors that would be key to making everything work well together. So thank you for your response in that regard. Thank you so much. Next, I would very much like to go back to Chris Rowland for a moment. Chris, I'm putting you on the spot here for a moment. Just want to revisit this idea. So you've heard lots of wonderful information and suggestions regarding preparing for this great opportunity that is presented to all of us right now. This is such an exciting moment. You can feel the anticipation of, the eagerness and all of the creators wanting to get this going and get it going now. But could you speak to, additionally, the things that have already been spoken regarding the practical steps that must be taken in order to establish a strong and impenetrable infrastructure that will then, again, make Ghana prepared and ready for this next step. So if you could speak to some things very specifically that might be done that you might be able to assist with when we get to that stage with the Bridge Zone of talking about that.
Thanks for that, Eleanor. Yeah, the predictions are that Africa is going to ultimately become the global leader of the world, the political, financial leader of the world at one stage in the future. And I can see that certainly happening because it's a growing continent. We have in Africa, we have some of the best infrastructure in the world, in terms of IT and so forth, because it's all new. So one of the things that I did want to say before we cut off here is that Ghana needs to decide within its industry, within the entertainment industry, and the individuals within that industry, what part of the industry do you want to be? What are you? Because ostensibly, it's going to come down to this. There's going to be two aspects of the industry there. One's going to be production services industry. What that industry is, that's basically where you have the infrastructure in Ghana. That means all the crew, the equipment, the post-production facilities, all of those are in place, and you service the larger international co-productions or international productions that simply come into Ghana and shoot there. That's a great way for Ghana to learn skills side by side with some of the world's best actors, some of the world's best producers, directors, some of the world's best crew. And that's one of the ways that we did that in South Africa. So that's one side, is the production services side of the industry. You're not an owner of the film, you're providing that infrastructure for the incoming production companies. The other side of it is original films, original film and television shows. So, and that's a whole different animal. And those two are supported financially by different criteria. So on the original production side, that's something that has to be supported internally in the country by government and by the private sector. And I would suggest to the private sector to petition government to come together to have a conversation about that. You'll find that what will happen initially within Ghana is you're going to have some of the smaller, more intimate films that are going to be made in terms of the original productions there. Those will end up making their way into international festivals and win awards, and that starts to bring awareness for Ghana. So when you have these two sides working together, you have the production services side coming together and working, you have the original production side working together. Both of those are bringing exposure to the industry. And Ghana needs to start looking at attending some of the major markets around the world, not just film festivals, but major markets. That's where you're going to meet all of those other individuals and companies from around the world and start exposing Ghana as a production destination, because that's what you want to be. You want to be a production destination. And RJ touched on that earlier. You know, in South Africa, we provided incentive. And I can tell you that the majority of those companies, the Hollywood studios, all come down here. I would say many of the films that you've seen that shot here, you just didn't know they were shot here. And it's because we provide a rebate of up to 30% on your production spend. Without those, we wouldn't have those productions. It's just really, it's a numbers game for that side of the industry.
Yes.
And unless you have that kind of an incentive, you're not going to attract people into your country.
Well, that's the discussion that's definitely going to come out of this further, and I agree wholeheartedly with you regarding that, and everyone else who has co-signed that as well. So I'm sure the regional will help facilitate that discussion with government and necessary officials. So now, folks, we are going to throw it back to Ms. Ivy Prosper for just a few more questions before we wind down to the culmination of this wonderful program today. Back to you, Ms. Prosper.
Thank you.
Questions?
Thank you. It's been a wonderful event so far. It's been great seeing all of you here, listening into this panel, asking your questions. We are going to wrap up shortly. We are taking 2 questions. Gentleman here with the blazer had his hand up, and the man at the back. We'll do one more, the lady here at the front. One. So that's 3 questions.
Okay. My question, a very beautiful submissions, and we thank you so much for having the opportunity to share with you these huge experiences that you have. Now, the only question that I want to ask is very simple. We are discussing Black Lives Matter. We are discussing beyond the return. Now, what is the roadmap from now to the next 5 years ahead of us? What are we seeking to achieve? Because so far, we are returning, but we are not returning with infrastructure development. And for me, that is important. Look at our movie industry in Ghana. Look at the stories that we have in Africa and Ghana. From the Ashanti story, from Kwame Nkrumah's story, and several of them. We have beautiful actors and actresses all here in Ghana. That will need strong productions from US. We need strong production, financial production I'm talking about, powerful one, to come and support them to be able to produce these huge movies. So I keep asking the question, what is the roadmap? What are we setting? What kind of agenda are we setting from here for the next 5 years? So that next year when we meet like this, we can say that last year when we had a conference, we said by June we are going to be able to put this. Because it's so stressful working from this part of the world. And you have seen what internet was even doing to us this evening. Amazon is not in Ghana. iTunes out. Everything that is supposed to boost this industry is outside. We need proper infrastructure development. We need physical financial support for the industry. If we're able to do this, that is when we can now begin to hit our chest and say, beyond the return, we were able to bring something from whatever is in America to Ghana, something in London to Ghana, something in Europe to Ghana. So what is the agenda? What are we setting? And I want our panelists on the virtual to tell us, what is the agenda are we setting this evening for this Black Lives Matter? Or it's just about we are returning, but not without the money?
I think your question is very similar to the question that was asked earlier from someone whose name was Raquel, that was asking what steps they were taking and if they were actually investing in the industry. I believe the question is similar, but if any of you want to answer his question, he's asking what the roadmap is for the next 5 years when it comes to investing in the industry in Ghana.
Okay, I'm going to actually take that on behalf of the panel because I think I can summarize what has been said throughout this afternoon on their behalf. Ultimately, sir, thank you again for that question, and I'm happy to say this amazing panel has definitely tapped into answering that question. First and foremost, through cooperation with the Bridge Zone, the Ghana Tourism Authority, and the Creative Arts Council, the goal on specifically on my behalf of ELO Entertainment and the partnership that I have with the Benford Company, Elusive Media and other companies, and relationships that I have with each and every one of these panelists who have been so gracious to offer their time and consideration today to be a part of this discussion. We are doing the information gathering that is necessary to be able to develop a 5-year plan. One cannot develop a 5-year plan if we don't have the necessary information that's needed to be able to put that together. So today marks a pivotal, amazing, important moment of being able to begin that process and taking it even further. Now, granted, it started long before because you all have been doing great work there, and as you said, people have been returning, and now it is about the next step. So again, we are going to talk with the Bridge Zone and the other organizations that have been mentioned to create a database and then to also secure your thoughts and ideas about what things are that are needed. As was mentioned earlier, being able to make sure that the various aspects and sectors within Ghana will be prepared and ready to receive the type of work that's needed, because right on this panel, there are people with projects that are just like what you're talking about at the level that you want. But what we're saying, what I'm saying, I'll speak specifically for myself in this moment, is that the infrastructure must be in place, and we have to examine what the infrastructure is like right now, establish that very clearly to be able to assess it, and then look to what needs to be ameliorated in order to be ready and prepared for the first or the several that will come simultaneously. Right now, I've specifically been talking with people about feature film possibilities, series possibilities. There's a client I work with who's a celebrity chef, Chef Cheo Yorobito, very interested in being able to come and do a TV program in Ghana. There are people for feature films that I've been talking with to include various partners that I've mentioned already. So there are things being discussed, but first and foremost, we've got to know that we'll be ready, right? So that's the next step in this process. Once that assessment is done and we're clear about what things need to happen next, there will be action steps, a very clear written plan, not just something we're talking about, but a written plan that we will then follow in order to get us to the finish line. And again, talking with Asante Bradford, and I mentioned earlier, and he talked about it also, which you may not have heard, about the exchange program that also deals with education, which is very important. Because if people arrive and there aren't enough people trained in specific areas that are needed, such as the cameramen, the Brits, best boys, hair, makeup, costuming, etc., cameramen, etc., then therein lies another problem. Then it becomes, well, where are we going to get all these other people to come in? So those are the steps we have to take, but simultaneously, we're already beginning the process of talking with people like RJ Bakaria, who's on here and is an investor, and others who will be able to consider this as a very real and viable possibility for something that will represent a return on their investment that they may potentially make. So that's where we're heading. That's the plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Earl. Thank you. I want to tell you that I could feel the frustration in your voice when you were asking the question, and I completely understand what you're saying. This problem of the infrastructure and of access to financing to produce film and television, you know, it is a serious issue. But I also believe that we live in a time when we can do things to try to take control of the situation because of the digital access we have. I know it's not easy. I speak from experience, it's not easy. I grew up in Canada and I worked in the film and TV industry there as well, and it's the same problem in Canada, trying to get money to do productions. Everybody says all the money's in America. So I want to give a personal example as to why I believe we can take control of using digital tools. I put a video on YouTube, and I got a streaming company that contacted me to ask me if I can produce 10 episodes of that one that I did. Turns out the crew I had is not reliable, and that's a problem. So we all have to work together to help each other, to be reliable. We can rely on each other to help build the industry. Because if I was able to rely on that person and the crew, I would have 10 episodes, but I don't. So I just wanted to say that. So let's go on to the next question. So we had a gentleman here, but before you ask, I don't want to forget. I want to acknowledge someone who is here that's very important in Ghana's music industry, one of the important investors in music, Joanna Jan Kujo, is here today. Thank you for coming and gracing us with your time and your presence. She has invested in the music industry, and her company is Golden Empire Legacy Limited. Thank you for coming. Okay, so the next question.
Great conversations going on here. I'm Stone, and known by the government of Ghana. The government of Ghana prefers to call me Livingston Kwame Luchu, but I am Stone. My question is, beyond the return, beyond all these great conversations, beyond everything that is being said and done here, how do we eliminate, delete, eradicate the red tapes and the bottlenecks, which is stopping us from going beyond the borders of Ghana? How do we ensure that people's IPs are not stolen? Because if you look in this auditorium, we have great actors and actresses. We have great musicians. Kecha has been channeling out great music since. Majid Michel is sitting here. Only God knows how many movies he's done. Nobody can tell your story better than yourself, and nobody can represent you better than yourself. It tells you that in this auditorium alone, we have the people and the talent and the skill to tell the story of the black man, the story of Africa, better than any other person. But there's something that is stopping us, which is the red tapes of politics, the red tapes and the bureaucracy of the industry, the institutions. With all these great people that we've assembled here, how do we break that barrier, that chain, that yoke of tying us down from going beyond the return?
Chris, would you mind speaking to that? Because I think you addressed it a bit, but if you could just kind of recap what you were saying, because you suggested that the community of creatives actually be a part of the process of sharing what they need with government and other agencies to move things forward. Could you touch on that just a bit? Just a
Did
little?
you speak to me,
Yes, Chris. Yes, please. Thank you.
So, yeah, I heard the other gentleman's frustration, which I understand. Believe me, we experienced that frustration 20 years ago. I will say this to everybody here that's attending today and people in private industry and in the public sector. We have a template for building a production community in Africa that has been refined over 20 years. We have seen all the pitfalls, all the mistakes that we made, and said, well, don't do that again, we'll do it this way. So I'm happy and committed to bringing that template down to Ghana and say, look, this is how you move forward. I understand that not every country is the same, but certainly we can look at how we develop the industry here in South Africa, and look what we've emerged into. We are a A-class production infrastructure in the world. We are well respected around the world. Take that infrastructure that we have, take that template that we have, rather, bring that down there and apply it. We can show you how to do that. And I'll make a commitment and say, invite me down, I'll come down and I'll participate in that. The answers to the questions that are being asked are not simple. They are complex and they take time for those things to work out. If I were to sit here and go through all of the elements of the frustration I heard, the questions I heard people talking about, and how do we create this industry going forward, it's not something I can answer in a minute, or in 2 minutes, or in 10. It's something that's going to require real engagement within the industry. That's an engagement between the private sector and the public sector, and to put the template on the table and say, what do you want to be? Where do you want to end up with? Where do you want to end up in 5, 10, 20 years from now? And that's an important question to say, what do you want to be? Then you backtrack into that and say, well, here's how you get there. And this has to happen within the industry in terms of the public and private sectors. You have to come together. You have to have those conversations. I can tell you, it won't happen by the public sector by itself, and it won't happen by the private sector by itself. And the private sector needs to understand, it'd be very difficult for you to launch that industry without having that support from the public sector. Now, the public sector should understand this, and this is my last point that I'll bring up, is that when you invest in your industry, and you provide incentives like we've done in South Africa, like so many countries have done around the world, there's a thing called a multiplier effect. So in South Africa, our multiplier effect is about 2.5 to 3. So that means for every, let's call it $1, we have rands here, for every $1 that they put in to us making movies here and television here and infrastructure, they get back 2.5 to 3 in tax revenue and other forms of revenue that come back into the industry. So it's not a handout. The money that government puts in, if it's structured properly, it's not a handout to say go make a movie and lose money or make money on a movie. It's not at all that way. It's much more methodical in the way that is structured. The government ends up making a profit on that. And they also end up building their industry at the same time. So that kind of structuring of incentives, the kind of how do you build the infrastructure, the kind of how do you educate people and train people. That was one of our big problems at the beginning. We didn't have enough people to support all the productions that were starting to come into the industry. We now have 4 film schools here, which I speak at a few of them, and we churn out a couple of hundred new people into the industry every year. So I'll make a commitment and say, I'll come down, happy to come down, bring the template, show you how it has been done, and see if we can't apply the same thing to Ghana.
Great, Chris, thank you. That was part of the large reason of having you on this panel today, is the amazing experience you have with actually helping to build the South African film market. It's amazing, and you'll be an amazing resource along with everyone on this panel. And Asante Bradford, your knowledge regarding doing the same thing in Atlanta and everyone else here. So there we are. I'm going to go back over now to Ivy Prosper, and shortly we'll be wrapping up the program now. Ms. Prosper.
Thank you. We are going to be wrapping up, but I did promise one young woman that she could ask one question. So this will be the final, absolute final question.
And then we'll hear from our panelists, the final thought from our panelists after that.
Good evening, and it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Sandra Osei Inti. I'm an actress and also content acquisition manager for an OTT IPTV platform. Now, we are saying Black stories matter, but from my point of view, I don't think that the industry is lacking stories. I think that we are telling the African stories, no matter how bad they may seem or how bad it will look after it's being produced. But then I think the issue is we telling the stories our way, because most producers shoot and the intention is to put them on international platforms. And these international platforms or festivals have got standards. And by the time that the movies have been edited to meet their standards, I've realized that two things happen. It's either the stories have been diluted to make it seem like an adapted Hollywood movie, or it puts the African setting in a very colloquial manner. So I have friends in the Caribbean who say that, oh, we still think or we still believe Africa is a jungle because of what we see. So again, I say that it's not about the stories, because if it's about the African stories, BBC, etc. tells our stories, and we are complaining of how they tell our stories. So then our concentration should be on how we are telling our story. And I think that for us to be able to achieve that, then we need to be looking at our distribution channels. So I'm asking, as an IPTV or as an OTT platform in Africa, if I have African movies on my platform, for you out there, you in other countries, what will make you want to patronize an OTT or IPTV platform locally, like a local one that has local content? Thank you.
Thank you. RJ, would you want to answer that one first? Thank you.
Sure. Great question. I think the answer always comes back to the same thing, and that's demand for the content. When you talk about intellectual property and content in today's market, one of the great things about the digital revolution that's happened is that we are now in a completely producer-centric market in the film and TV space. Companies like Netflix and Disney Plus and Hulu and a lot of the other big streamers are throwing money at content right now, trying to win the streaming wars that are going on and garner subscribers and everything else. So in this particular case, I think it comes down to, in a good way, the content. If you have compelling content that people want to watch, that is what will make people tune in. If you are telling stories and you're producing content that is near and dear to your heart and doing it in a way that you feel is presenting the story the right way, and it's up on a local platform, and let's pretend for a moment I'm a larger platform that's out looking for new content to bring on, and we come and take a look and we notice that, hey, your film has been streamed 2 million times. That's something that I need to pay attention to, because again, this is the business side of everything. What content I as a larger platform acquire, or what content I as a aggregator point my consumer base toward and get involved in, is always going to be around how many eyeballs am I generating off of it, because that translates into subscriptions for me, it translates into advertising revenue for me, it translates into the ways that I make money for my business. So I think to your point, if you guys are creating content on, we'll call it an independent level, where you're producing content outside of that framework of, we're gonna make it feel like a Hallmark movie or a Disney movie so that it's got a wide acceptance, but you're producing content that's coming through an independent lens that is striking and is getting people's attention and is garnering the attention of people, it's naturally going to find its home onto larger and larger platforms. It's no different than when videos go viral on YouTube, or the next TikTok star kind of pops up. They don't necessarily come from fixed areas and fixed methodologies to create a viral video. It happens because something from a content perspective has grabbed people's attention, has grabbed people's interest, and has caused that content to be propagated in a global fashion. And that's no different for you as a small OTT platform and distributor as it would be for a larger Netflix player that's coming into the market. It's all just about putting out stellar content in a way that serves you as a storyteller and in a way that engages the market for them to be excited about it. That's the only answer.
That's awesome, Archie. I think that was a great answer, right on point. And at this time, we're going to just have each of our panelists offer a final thought. We've heard wonderful things today, and we know that we have a lot of work to do, but it's very encouraging. So I just want to give each of you an opportunity, whatever point you'd like to make, just to briefly share a minute or less as we wrap up for the day. Starting with E2 Evans, let's start there.
Sure. It's been said that teamwork makes the dream work. I think this panel is composed of an amazing team, so the possibilities are infinite. You mentioned infrastructure. Certain things have to be put into place for the dream to work. And I think when you have the right ingredients and you have the right team, magic can happen. And I think that's what we witnessed today. And I think this is step one in the right direction. I'm excited about it, leaving a footprint in fashion and beauty, as well as in telling stories in terms of film. Because, people generally think of African fashion as dashikis and that kind of thing. And I think it's so much more in the sensibility that Africa has to offer, and I look forward to giving a voice to that. And thanks so much for having me on the panel.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Lamont Rucker.
I was teasing it too for, saying,
Then what you
yeah, That's all right. We have the whole dearth of it from the dashiki to the vest and tie, and the lapel pin. Yeah, man. So African swag is thorough, is as thorough as it gets, man. So
that's right.
I can't wait to see and learn more, and even rock, some of your inventions as well, man. So we'll have to talk about that too.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think for me, if I were to just leave some parting words, it would be to just be patient with the process. I think, similarly, and again, not to put words in anybody's mouth, but I can feel and sense the desire, the urgency, and some of the passion, and also maybe some of the frustration there. I know what it feels like to have people overtalk something and never deliver. And I'm not interested in being part of that kind of equation. So I'm confident that not just in our intentions here, but also in the actual manifestation of some things that can and will come to form. But to understand that it's a process. It takes time. Again, back to Asante and I talked about the similar period of time that we've just had our own personal investment of time in the Atlanta market. That's not even counting the time, like I said, that I spent in Pittsburgh, the time that I've been living in New York for 20 years, and I've lived in Los Angeles for 15 years. So, the amount of time that it actually takes to bring ideas, to take things from ideation to creation and actual implementation and manifestation, it's a process. It takes time to build relationships so that these are They're people that, again, you can trust and that you can depend on and have demonstrated that they actually have the acumen to, to do what it is they say they can do. Things come up in people's schedules that they're no longer, available, and then an earlier idea or something that's, you were moving toward, and then sometimes things change or get rerouted or get delayed. Do not give up on your dreams. Continue to cultivate your relationships with each other. What you're building on the ground there is more important than what we intend to do there. I believe if you build it, they will come, so to speak, right? The they, in the sense, being us in this equation. But just the same, what you already have and who you already are is of interest and is valuable to all of us. We want to participate in the process with you. So I just don't want people to get overwhelmed by their frustration and the desire to make some of their dreams come true. And I know sometimes being disheartened about, with sometimes the empty promises, that happen and things that don't quite come to fruition or don't happen as soon. That's why I just wanted to encourage everybody earlier to be invested in your own development, your own personal and professional development, skill development. But the gem that is Ghana is all of you who are already there. The real, access to opportunity that you have is in that room, and the more you all do that, the more we understand and can see, and it's demonstrated. Again, I think even Barron talked about proof of concept. You've been doing it, you're doing it. You don't have to conform to what we're doing, but there are ways that you all style and your voice and the way that things are already being done in Ghana can align and find a harmony with the way we do things here in the States, and we can create some beautiful music together. It's a new harmony in a sense that's yet to be developed and cultivated. Yet, our standards, we will kind of, again, as Chris kind of stated, we'll kind of share what those standards are here. So if you want to win the game here, then you got to learn the rules of engagement here. Similarly, we want to engage and be successful on your side of the planet. So teach us, lead us, and show us the way so that we can participate in how Ghana continues to grow and scale up and evolve. But just be patient with the process. Know that you've got a lot of what you already need, and what you don't have, ideally, we can be the partnership that can help you get to where you want to go.
Most definitely. Thank you so much, Lamont. Shelby Stone, if you have a part
Oh,
of
and can I lastly add, we didn't give any contact. I would love for everybody
we're
to
gonna
just kind of give like a little social media something, so we know where to find everybody. Or
I think that's a
Sorry,
great
Shelby.
Okay, yeah, and you can go ahead and do that now. I was going to do that then, but this is perfect.
Oh,
As you're
okay,
speaking,
well,
you can go ahead, Shelby, and share your social media if you'd like to. And if not, I'm just going to go ahead and make the announcement. Everyone will actually be able to reach out to the Bridge Zone as a direct point of contact. I've created this database, and you'll be able to communicate with any and every one of us through the Bridge Zone, as opposed to getting direct contact information. But we also encourage you to go to social media for those who are on social media as well.
So I was already doing that even during our conversation. So
That's
I'm
so
following the Ghana Tourism Authority already. I'm following,
wonderful.
the
Bridge Zone.
Yeah, I'm beyond the return already. I'm gonna look up the Bridge Zone.
Yes.
I think I found E2 already. I'm still trying to identify everybody else. So I'm at Lamon Rucker Official on Instagram. That's LAMMANRUCKER Official. And then I'm at Lamon Rucker on Facebook and Twitter. So LAMMANRUCKER Official. And again, my nonprofit I spoke to earlier, our new sites are all at The Black Gents, BLACKGENTS. So, that feel free to follow, join those communities, and please stay in touch and tag me in things that are going on and things that you're doing. And that's another way of, of global communication between us.
That's awesome. That's perfect. E2, before we go to you, Shelby, let's go back to E2 for a second to do the same thing, and then Shelby will come back to you. Would you give your handles on social media? But beyond that, they'll connect with you via the Bridge Zone.
Sure. On Instagram, at E2Evans, ETUEVANS. Also, I have another page coming up that's going to be dedicated solely to design, and that's E2 Evans, New York.
Excellent, thank you. Now back to Shelby Stone.
Well, there's been a lot of things said. I echo a lot of what Chris, Lamont, RJ, Asante, what people are saying about building it and it will come, but you also have to be ready. And I think that's really an important message that everybody keeps saying. Because being on set, being in production is not a natural state. It's something you have to learn. And, yes, I can't speak to any other version of the film and TV business other than the American one. I've shot a lot in Canada, but their production systems are sort of the same as ours. But I think in order to, I might make a passionate case to my network, to everybody involved in Barracoon to come to Ghana, but Ghana needs to be ready because otherwise I will lose that debate because the people who are paying for the show are going to have a series of questions, which RJ beautifully outlined about how their investment is going to be spent and will it be, will all of the systems be in place? And Chris spoke to that. And I think that it's very important to study some of the places around you who've done it really well. And South Africa has definitely become one of the go-to places in Africa to shoot. And it's worth, you don't have to do what they did, but I think it's really worth it to examine that blueprint and figure out what is your version of that. Because I think that ultimately means that producers who might have an aspiration won't get supported in that if you don't have a system to hold it, if that makes sense. And I love that, Eleanor is trying so very hard in interfacing and trying to share that knowledge with all of the various groups in Ghana that want that as part of Ghana's future. And otherwise, I would just say, yes, if you build it, they will come. Just be ready. And thank you. I can't even remember what my Instagram is. I'm not, honestly, I know it sounds terrible.
That means you don't use it, that's all.
I don't have a lot of bandwidth for I'll look at cute puppy and kid videos sometimes if I really am bored. That I believe. Pardon me?
I think I found you and I saw the puppy pictures.
Oh,
yeah, because I really. I am Shelby Stone on Instagram.
I am Shelby Stone.
I just found that one, yeah.
Yeah, I am Shelby Stone. Yes, my dog does lots of posing.
That's great.
The way you'll know is that it's a picture of an extremely tiny dog, a Yorkie, who looks like a squirrel. Kind of. Squirrel size. And that is my, that's what I do.
That's great.
I love it.
Things, but otherwise, I don't take to social media for a lot of socio-political rants. In that way, I'm sure Lamont and some other people have far more interesting social media than I do.
Well, it sounds fabulous. I can't wait to see the picture of the cute dog.
Well.
So I am Shelby Stone is where you can reach Shelby Stone on social media, but more specifically through the Bridge Zone for all of our panelists is where you should connect in order to be able to really get connected to all this going on. Next up, we have Asante Bradford. Would you give a brief goodbye and overview of what you'd like to say? Thank you.
Sure. Thanks. And thanks again, everybody, for being invited. I literally want to follow exactly what Lamont and Shelby Stone said. I think they nailed it again. One of the things I've seen as we built our infrastructure here in the creative arts or creative industries, it's not one entity or one group that can do it. It literally takes it takes everybody to really come together. So even we're government, but for us, it's working with the private sector, it's working with our corporations, it's working with our schools for the talent to be able to fund that, to be able to provide jobs for these industries. So I'll be real quick because I think they just laid out exactly what I want to say, that it's going to take a collaborative effort. It's just not going to be one group that's going to be able to make it there.
That's right.
You guys as a, need to figure out exactly who are those players. And obviously today we are determining who those players are going to be. And we all have to come together to make it happen. At least that's what I've seen how Georgia made it. It was not one group that stood out or did it by itself. It was literally a collaborative effort. So
that's important.
One last thing, Eleanor, I'd just like to say everybody on the panel, I love when I'm on panels and I learn more stuff than to be giving information, but I'm actually learning information, man. So
Yeah.
I thank you guys so much for being here.
I'm taking all kind of notes.
That's awesome.
Exactly. This is awesome. Thank you, Eleanor, and for everybody putting this together, man. So glad to be part of it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Asante. You hit it on the head as well. Yes, I've been taking copious notes too, y'all. You never learn enough. It's awesome. And can you give them your handle on social media, Asante?
Yeah, I'm like Shelby. My Instagram got hacked, so
it's okay. They're gonna reach you through the bridge zone anyway.
That's a whole nother crazy story, man.
Well, we'll leave that one, but they'll be able to reach you.
Asking for money from my friends, and anyway.
Well, anyway, the bridge zone.
Georgia.org. If you go to the website, you can find it.
Okay, there we go. Thanks so much. Now on to RJ.
Hey there. So yeah, listen, I just want to start out again as saying that, I'm always so humbled when I get invited to participate in amazing conversations like this. And I certainly have heard some wonderful information from the rest of the panelists, and I honestly hope that the information that you guys heard from us is helpful in some way, shape, or form, be it to continue to motivate you, to garner more knowledge for yourselves, and to continue to move this pathway forward for you guys. The one thing that I'll kind of chirp on that, everybody throughout this entire conversation has really talked a lot about is, once again, success in this industry really and truly comes down to, first and foremost, relationships and being in the right rooms, having the right conversations, and having the right opportunities. And as I started out, with here today, I think this initial conversation is exactly the foundation that you guys really need on both sides of this. The conversation was asked and the question was asked earlier about the pathway to success over 5 years. This is the first step. It's putting people like us in a room with you so that we both now establish that respective beachhead of conversation between one another. And I've said it a couple of times throughout all of this. You notice what we're all doing on the panel, on Zoom. What are we all doing? We're going, hey, tell me about that movie you're doing. I could be in that movie. Hey, tell me about those tax credits, and tell me some more about that. Because in this business, we all know each other. Even though this is the first time I'm meeting Lamont, I'm sure if we ran through a catalog of 5 or 10 people, we'd know somebody in common. We would. It's just the way that this business is. Because this business is very insular, it's very protective. It goes back to something that we touched on earlier about the infrastructure being ready down there. The reason for that is because this business is so protected. There is a standard in film, TV, music at that upper echelon level of what is expected from the end product that's being delivered, what's expected from the on-set relationships and from the caliber of talent that's on set, whether you're talking about the caterer and not only the food that they're presenting, but how that caterer conducts themselves as a professional when they're engaging with The Rock or with another big-time celebrity or with a diva director. All of those things make the difference between you continuing to get your phone rung when the next opportunity is arriving or it never ringing again. And all of it comes from conversations and building relationships and building bridges together. And I just want to end by, once again, thanking all of you down there for participating in this and for allowing us to participate with you guys and to begin to establish those relationships as a way for us to get the tremendous benefit of the knowledge and talent that you guys have down there.
Okay, awesome. So thank you so much, RJ. Well said. And Chris, you're our final panelist to just give a brief, quick goodbye to everyone, and then we're going to toss it back over to the main room. Thank you.
First, I want to say thanks, Shelby, for making me laugh. You're right. Being on set is not a natural state at all. I agree with build it and they will come. If you remember Kevin Costner's character in that movie, there was one thing, one attribute that he had, and that was commitment. So if you build it, they will come, but you need to be committed to that process, 100%, especially in this industry. This industry is like no other. I will leave it with this. Yesterday is an illusion, tomorrow doesn't exist, and the only thing that is now. If you focus on the future about what you can't get to, or if you focus on the past about what hasn't been done, you're going to mess up the present. It's the present moment that is the most important thing in terms of building something. So if you focus on that, what's happening right now, what can you do today? What can you make happen right now that's going to have an impact on building the industry for tomorrow? That's what you focus on. Build on that, capitalize on that, and then you'll expand. And I want to say thank you very much. It was an absolute honor and a pleasure to be with this really wonderful group of people. I hope I get all your contact numbers and that we can all communicate in the future.
I've got you, Chris.
I want to thank the Arts Council and the rest as well. And Eleanor, thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, my friend. So without further ado, thank you to all of our panelists, Lamont Rucker, Asante Bradford, Shelby Stone, RJ Bukaria, E2 Evans, Chris Rowland, Philinus West, Aaron Davis, and Vasal Benford wanted to be here as well and sends, as we said before, his apologies. But we're looking forward to seeing you in the future. I'm going to hand it now back over to the lovely Ivy Prosper. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking out the time to be with us today for this virtual masterclass, The Return Conversations, Black Stories Matter. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you, everyone, for coming here today. We are going to be receiving final remarks from one of the board members for Ghana Tourism Authority. But before she speaks, I want to acknowledge the manager for the Year of Return and Beyond the Return, Secretariat Annabelle McKenzie is here today as well. I saw her a few minutes ago, now I don't see her, but I want to acknowledge that she's here today as well. So, to close out the evening, Denta Amwating is going to speak. She is a board member with Ghana Tourism Authority, and she's also the head of Guba Enterprises.
Thank you. Again, thank you to everybody that joined us from the US. It's been an amazing conversation. Prof, I can't thank you enough. Because of you, we've been able to have such amazing people on the panel. Also, I need to acknowledge Prince One, Anthony, the CEO of Bridge Zone. Come up so people can see who you are. Give him a round of applause because it's been hard work putting all this together. So, how do we move the conversation forward? That is the question. And for us, we are going to be working with the creative industry, the Bridge Zone. We're going to be forming smaller groups. So people that are in film, people that are in fashion, music. We are going to be setting up groups and having conversations with the people in the US. It is a process. It's not going to be straight away that things will happen, but we need to start from somewhere. And so that is the plan. We are planning on having monthly conversations with other US-based people who are willing to come to Ghana. And as Lamont said, that he is looking to shoot a movie in Ghana. This and Shelby Stone as well. This is an opportunity, and Chris, all of them are planning on doing, Baron Davis, all of them are planning on doing something in Ghana. And so once we have those groups, those working groups, when there's an opportunity for casting, you guys will be the first people that we contact. So it's really, really important that if you are really interested in collaboration, in our storytelling, this is the time that we need to come together and make this happen. And for me, it's such a beautiful occasion because all of our celebrities, our top celebrities, are here today. Paulino Dro, Keche, Kekeli, Gloria, Majid, Martha, everybody, Amakea Brabrese, everybody's here. Sorry if I miss out your name, forgive me, but it's just overwhelming that we can come together as one and make things happen. So this is the beginning of a successful journey, collaboration between us in Ghana and our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. But I don't know if you want to say anything.
Thank you very much, everyone, especially Professor Eleanor, Shelby Stone, Leman Raka, my brother, Etu Evans. I know this is the beginning of something great, and we are super excited to have had you on here. Thank you very much, and thank you for announcing some of the projects that you want to work on in Ghana. I know everyone here is excited, and the Bridge Zone is ready to make this happen. Thank you.
Lastly, Leman, we love the fact that you're wearing Made in Ghana top that Bart sent to you. Ajinyame, thank you so much for rocking Ghana.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. There are small bites and refreshments. You can spend some time networking. I know it's been a long evening, but this is an opportunity for you to continue engaging. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful evening.
And the people are warm. Go beyond to a home far from home. Visit Ghana. Welcome to Ghana. Go beyond the return to a home of a rich cultural heritage where nature is incredible. Adventure is everywhere and the people are warm. Go beyond to a home far from home. Visit Ghana. Welcome to Ghana. Go beyond the return to a home of a rich cultural heritage where nature is incredible. Adventure is everywhere and the people are warm. Go beyond to a home far from home. Visit Ghana.